those years as a superhero in Marvel. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 276, Doom's appearance. After Hank made the stealth equipment, he stopped describing more details about the original X-Men. It seems that Hank has lost interest. Perhaps many things are not so beautiful in his memories. Lee Ji finally only vaguely understood some of the stories about the first generation of X-Men. Perhaps in this world line, Charles and Magneto still become a pair of friends who love and hate each other. However, the establishment of the entire X-Men is shrouded in more complex relationships, and the final breakup is also shrouded in various mysterious veils, which is not as simple as the original movie story. In fact, in Lee Ji's speculation, perhaps the whole incident will be more complicated. Because the original X-Plan, which only involved Stryker, is now involved in the. This allows Lee Ji to let go of his brain and imagine out of thin air. As the most important organization in the at that time, did Hydra also get involved? Even more boldly, was the X-Plan organized by Hydra? After the fall of the Hydra did not disappear, but instead broke up into pieces and integrated into the interior of the Alliance. From the things of S.H.I.E.L.D., we can see how deep Hydra hides. Can such a deep hiding be discovered by the military? In other words, is Plan X carried out by Stryker really just a personal plan? Or is there actually a pusher behind it? Maybe this general who discriminates against mutants uses Weapon X as a sword in his hand. But he doesn't know that maybe he is just a pawn in the hands of some people, and everything is actually manipulated by someone behind the scenes. Any seemingly correct decision, thinking that it is a decision made by his own ideas. But someone behind the scenes uses an invisible big hand to influence his choice? Lee Ji told himself that everything he guessed was not impossible. Although he has not dealt with Stryker head-on, he knows from his communication with Frank. This military general is no different from the general who discriminated against mutants in his original memory in terms of character and behavior. If S.H.I.E.L.D. was eroded by Hydra, it was within Lee Ji's expectations. After all, there was this part in the original story. But the military was also eroded by Hydra, which was beyond Lee Ji's expectations. The most important cornerstone of the U.S. government is also the most brutal department. The powerful U.S. military has been infiltrated by Hydra. Just thinking about this kind of ghost thing gives me a headache. The strength and concealment of Hydra far exceeds anyone's expectations. Lee Ji can only give up thinking about these things. Because some things are useless to think too much, and some things cannot be changed after all. What I need is to solve the problems in front of me first. Block Doom and force him to negotiate. At the same time, let Dr. Doom and Tony reach an agreement. Lee Ji needs to strangle the two sources of new energy development and force those warring countries to return to the negotiating table to seek a more gentle way to resolve disputes in new energy development. This kind of thing cannot be accomplished by personal force alone. Even as powerful as the Ancient One or Odin, they cannot rely on personal force to make these countries compromise. Some people simply regard the relationship between countries as the relationship between people. This idea is too naive. The mode of getting along between countries is more complicated and involves a lot. Only through constant quarrels and negotiations, mutual coercion and inducement, and reaching a community of interests can an unstable alliance be formed. Lee Ji needs to hold the key to the future world of new energy in his hands before he can start his next plan. Maybe it's a bit presumptuous to say it, but what Lee Ji is doing now will indeed affect the whole world pattern to a great extent, as long as the plan can succeed. Stifling new energy and forcing many countries back to the negotiation table is only the first step, and the second step of the plan is also the most dangerous step of the whole plan. Lee Ji will introduce a new, common enemy to the Earth. Let all the countries on the Earth understand that in front of the new enemy, it doesn't matter what country they are. What matters is whether they can unite and resist foreign enemies together. In human history, in most cases, it is under the condition of strong external threats that a group can maintain internal unity for a long time. And this step is very risky. It can be said that to some extent, what Lee Ji did is no different from some big villains. But sometimes, when you are an extraordinary person, you need to do extraordinary things. When you want to do more things, sometimes you are not only greeted with applause, but also countless abuse and criticism. And the third step of the whole plan is also the most difficult step of Lee Ji's whole plan. He hopes to use the invasion of foreign enemies as an opportunity to promote the reform of the Earth's political system. This will be a complicated and long process. Li Ji's expectation is to at least form an institution similar to the Federation, rather than the current United Nations, which is used as a decoration. The conflicts between countries should be reduced to the level that can be resolved at the negotiation table. The most terrible way to solve everything is to resort to war. Sometimes, heroes are created by the general trend of the times. But in fact, many times, heroes are also shaping the direction of this great era. Different people have different personalities, different growth trajectories, and different ideals. When the ability they have is stronger, some people choose to hide and live their own lives in peace, thinking that cleaning up the snow in front of their own door is the best way of life. They always think that they are special, and the sky will not kill them when it falls. But some people will stand up because more experience tells them. Sometimes someone needs to stand up, because you can't always expect others to hold up a sky for you, whether it is peace or safety, clean drinking water and full food, or even safe air to breathe. All these require a price. This is a cruel era, and it is the most stupid thing to pin your expectations on others. Anyone who is capable should actively face the problem, rather than blindly shirking the blame and criticizing others, while standing by and watching. Li Ji and everyone who came to this place with him today all hold this concept. Compared with believing that others can handle things well, everyone at the scene believes in their own abilities. Rather than saying that what these people do is heroic, it is better to use a more simple concept. They all maintain a positive and optimistic attitude, believing that the world should become better rather than worse. And who else can make this world better? This strong sense of self distinguishes them from the mediocre, even if they have the ability to penetrate the sky and the earth. Dumu arrived a little later than Li Ji and others expected. According to the timing of the absolute atomic clock, Li Ji and others waited at least 7 hours at the same place. However, the reconnaissance was very timely. In fact, the closer to the River of Souls, the greater the interference to the communication equipment. The transmission of long-distance signals and radar reconnaissance has become a very difficult thing. But the best situation at the scene is that they have a human radar. Matt, the taciturn daredevil, has been quietly using his superpowers. That is, the ability to restore images using sound waves, similar to radar. Matt had already detected Doom and his companions as soon as they appeared. At 10 o'clock, a large number of people are preparing to approach the River of Souls. Chapter 277. A moment to show strength. Demon Bart was born in Hell, and his master, Master Rune, has also lived in Hell for quite a long time. They are already very familiar with the terrain of Hell. Of course, even so, Bart dare not guarantee that he can be familiar with every part of Hell, because this strange place really hides too many unknown things. However, Bart is relatively clear about a place where the River of Souls flows through Hell, because Master Rune has done in-depth research on soul and space magic. Because this is Hell, there is no place more suitable for this kind of research than here. But Dumu does not have a guide like Demon Bart. He can find this place completely by another method. The Ghost Rider Shen Biangsheng relies on the memory of the spirit of vengeance in his body to find the approximate direction of the River of Souls. The spirit of vengeance in Shen Biangsheng's body is a bit special. The spirit of vengeance in his body is related to the legendary Ksiddhagarbha Bodhisattva of the Oriental God system, which should be another consciousness of Ksiddhagarbha. Please don't get me wrong here. The Oriental God system has some similarities with the Chinese God system, but its essence is specious. In the Chinese God system, Ksiddhagarbha Bodhisattva is the great power in charge of the reincarnation of Hell. And unlike other pantheons, the god who governs Hell in the Chinese pantheon is a genuine main god, or to explain it from the perspective of the Western pantheon, he is at the level of the Father of Heaven. And he is also a righteous god, not a demon god like Mephisto or Lucifer. This is very, very rare. Most of the Hell Lords in Hell are big demons, and they get the position of god because of some special reasons. Few righteous gods born with divinity will condescend to be a Hell Lord in Hell. You must know that Hell is not a good place. And Ksiddhagarbha Bodhisattva in the Chinese pantheon is definitely the most special one. Although the Buddhist pantheon originated in India, there is no place for Buddhism in India today. Like many other pantheons, the Buddhist pantheon also has its own kingdom of God. Only devout believers can go to the Western Pure Land of the kingdom of God to live after death. This is the same as Asgard. Only those who believe in the gods of Asgard can enter the kingdom of God. Today, The countries on the earth that believe in Buddhism are concentrated in East Asia. And the most believers are in China. There is a Jizo in the Oriental pantheon. Although they share the same name, their abilities and status are too different. Jizo in the Oriental pantheon is just a minor god, and he does not even have the qualifications to build a temple. He only erects a small Buddha statue about 30 centimeters high on the roadside for passers-by to worship. In terms of status, it is about the same as that of the land god. His main responsibility is to protect the safety of a family, but in addition to the function of protecting the safety of a family, the only thing this minor god has to do with Jizo is to help Jizo guide the dead souls. To be precise, this minor Jizo should be called Jizo boy or Jizo messenger. Because the revenge spirit in Kamibu's body has an unclear relationship with Jizo in the Oriental pantheon, and also has the ability to guide the dead souls. Therefore, Kamibu has a certain sense of the river of souls, where the dead souls go. However, the closer he gets to the river of souls, the more powerful the interference this sense receives. The first is that the revenge spirit in his body is just the consciousness of the minor god, and he has never been close to the river of souls. The second is that the closer he gets to the river of souls, the more afraid the spirit of revenge in Kamibu becomes. Because as the guide of the dead souls, he has a kind of awe for the river of souls and does not want to get too close to it. When he moves to a certain extent in this direction, Kamibu's positioning begins to become confused and he needs to accurately position himself. Doom used another method. A special storage box is hung on the waist of his armor. The box is not large and forms a relatively complete shape with the armor as a whole. In this storage space, Doom put 5 metal balls the size of duck eggs. The metal balls are shining with a silver-white luster, just like they have been chrome-plated and then polished with a polishing cloth. The mirror-like luster on the surface of the ball is its most significant feature. After Doom took out the ball, he transferred a small amount of energy to the ball through his armor, and the metal ball that originally looked like a complete piece actually had irregular cracks. Through the cracks, the entire ball began to undergo a complex deformation. The process was silent and delicate, just like a work of art being opened. A complicated hollow hole was opened, and looking into the ball from the hole, one could only see a green light. What is this? It looks like a work of art. Kingpin looked at the ball in Doom's hand with interest. A soul collector, I think you have seen it. Of course, it was a simple and primitive version. Doom reminded Kingpin calmly. Kingpin thought about it and realized that it should be the metal ball that Doom threw in when he calmed down the irritable entrance to hell that day. So you stuffed souls into these spheres? It's incredible. Kingpin was amazed. I didn't expect that, Dr. Doom. You are not only a genius in science, but also have made great achievements in mysticism. Doom was not too shocked by Kingpin's praise, and he continued to speak calmly. When I met those monks in China, I knew there was another world outside this world. Any smart person would be eager to explore the unknown. And I am no exception. It is rumored that the closer to the city of the dead, the easier it is for the soul to be attracted to it. Otherwise, it is likely to drift aimlessly in hell for several years. However, the escape speed of the soul after being extracted from the city of the dead is very fast. It may be difficult for us to find the city of the dead based on the soul, unless there are a considerable number of souls to form a route for us. So I would like to ask, Doctor, how many souls are there here? Jin Bing appropriately expressed his concern. More than 300,000. Doom said an astonishing number calmly. Pa. Jin Bing couldn't help but applaud. I guess there are many souls who died in the Eastern European War. When did you start to care about the lives of irrelevant people? These people are not my subjects. I don't care, and I guess you don't care either, Jin Bing. Doom's words made Jin Bing's applause even more enthusiastic, and he kept nodding to Doom. In a sense, these two people have too many similarities. Especially the point that he would do anything to achieve his goal. Doom has a special device that relies on energy fluctuations to detect the whereabouts of souls that escaped from the soul cage. In his eyes, these escaped souls set up conspicuous road signs for him. When Doom could already see the colorful river of souls from afar, his built-in inspection monitor in his helmet was instantly overloaded and short-circuited and burned because it detected an inestimable amount of soul energy. However, because Doom considered safety issues when designing it, the small explosion in the mask did not hurt him this time. However, Doom could still smell the stench of burned circuit boards. It may take some time to dissipate these smells. The city of the dead is a river. Based on the whereabouts of the dead souls that Doom checked last, Those dead souls should have gone to the colorful river. Lucifer will not tell me everything without reservation. Kingpin stood beside Doom. This time he came to hell without wearing his usual white suit. Going to hell like that would be courting death. For this operation in hell, he had already prepared his outfit. A set of power armor that is 2.5 meters high and weighs nearly 700 kilograms, as huge as a hill, is a bit like the Mk1 designed by Tony at the beginning. Of course, there are still huge differences between the two. I don't know where Kingpin got it from. You must know that Tony's armor is not for sale, and Doom is not kind enough to make a set of armor for Kingpin. In the final analysis, the two are just using each other. But this river should be related to the city of the dead. Even at such a distance, you can still feel the strong energy fluctuations. Maybe you can find the city of the dead along this river. Doom murmured to himself. And his speculation is basically correct. Let's go to the vicinity of that river first, but let some cannon fodder go to see if there is any danger first. Doom has made such a decision. The cannon fodder he mentioned is the ninjas of the Hand Society. Doom and Kingpin have no mercy on these ninjas. In the final analysis, they are just a group of living dead, and even their souls are incomplete. In fact, the closer they got to the River of Souls, the more ninjas of the Hand Society began to collapse. This was because their broken souls were not stable in their bodies. The closer they were to the River of Souls, the more souls were directly extracted and put into reincarnation. In a place where Doom and others did not pay attention, Li Ji and his group slowly approached with the help of invisible equipment. Let those ninjas go first. Li Ji saw that under Doom's order, those ninjas of the Hand Society walked towards the River of Souls like puppets. These ninjas are not a threat. Tony had a short-distance conversation with Li Ji through the communication equipment in the armor. Although they were very close, it would be a stupid thing to speak directly in the air at this time and expose the target of himself and others. Let them fend for themselves, so that we don't have to do it. Li Ji had already discovered the abnormality of these ninjas. When those ninjas began to go away, and the straight line distance between Li Ji and others and Doom was only about 3 kilometers. According to the original plan, everyone started to act. For someone like Doom, if you want him to have a formal face-to-face negotiation with you, you need to show some strength. And now is the time to show some strength. Chapter 278 Surrounded and Rejected. 3 kilometers is not a long distance for Tony Stark's mecha army. Most of the firearms of these mecha army can attack several kilometers, and some models even have armed strike capabilities of hundreds of kilometers. Of course, this kind of beyond visual range strike can only be completed by the Hell Destroyer mecha equipped with heavy firepower. And this kind of strike is basically a tactical strike and is not suitable for the current situation. When all the mecha army was in place and arrived at the preset position, Doom finally found something wrong. Although the cloaking device made by Dr. Hank is indeed very useful. But after all, it was made temporarily and has many shortcomings. Although the closer to the River of Souls, the more chaotic the energy fluctuations are, affecting Doom's detection equipment. But now at this distance, even if it is disturbed by the powerful energy waves of the River of Souls, Doom still detected the unusual energy fluctuations around. After all, the energy released by the arc reactor is still quite conspicuous, especially at such a close distance. It looks like we've been ambushed, Doom said to Kingpin beside him, but there was not much fluctuation in his voice. He always had a calm attitude. Come out, Tony Stark. I know it's you. I'm too familiar with the energy fluctuations of the arc reactor. Doom shouted in a direction that seemed to be empty. It looks like they've discovered us. Tony raised his eyebrows at Li Ji beside him and put on his steel mask. I had planned that he would find us. I never underestimated Doom. Li Ji smiled at Tony. Do we need to go out and meet this guy? Harry asked. Of course, Dr. Hank, please remove some of the cloaking devices. Only keep our backup forces from being discovered by Doom. Hank nodded when he heard Li Ji's words. Frank, let all the Iron Guys under your command enter a state of war and open up the arsenal to show our new friends. Frank's mouth corners slightly raised. He liked this approach. After Dr. Hank's cloaking device was removed, Doom and others found themselves in a circle of finished product. According to Li Ji's request, the Hell Destroyer controlled by Frank showed all its firepower. 4 Gauss rifles, dense missile compartments on the shoulders and back, and micro-tracking bullets on the legs. There are also laser launchers on the arms. The other 2 models of mechas have also entered a full combat state. With the assistance of Jarvis, All mechas have been assigned the targets they need to attack, and there will be no waste of firepower. Of course, Li Ji did not foolishly expose all the Iron Legion. In fact, there are still some iron mechas hiding in the farther place with cloaking devices. This is considered a living force and a backup. This is also the most basic rule in all tactical operations. You need to give yourself a way out. I just want to talk to you. After removing the cloaking device, Tony Stark's gold and red iron armor was very eye-catching in the crowd. In this way, Doom looked around. They were surrounded by fully armed iron mechas. His guards have entered a state of full alert, and will immediately open fire if there is any movement. Li Ji can already hear the unique buzzing sound of the melt-a-gun. I think we may only use this method to make you listen to us carefully, Dr. Doom. Li Ji walked to Tony's side and said so. What do you want to talk about? I don't think there's anything to talk about. If you don't want to escalate the situation and turn it into an unnecessary war, you can leave now. Doom didn't want to hurt the basket at this critical moment. It's not necessary? No, no, no. Li Ji said three no's to deny Doom's words. I think it is necessary, Doctor. Who are you? Doom knew Tony Stark. Of course the whole world knew him, and he also knew the existence of the Supreme Sorcerer from the Chinese monks. But he didn't know who Li Ji was. An unknown person? Just treat me as an unknown person who likes to meddle in other people's business. Li Ji didn't tell Doom his name either. I'm not interested in talking to an unknown person about anything. Doom frowned, but the mask blocked it from others. You may not be interested, but I believe that the missiles we have here aimed at you will make you talk to me calmly. Li Ji drew a circle with his hand, signaling Doom not to forget the current situation. Tony Stark, are you going to let an unknown person make the decision for you here? Or do you, the mages, don't need your dignity anymore? Doom's words were a bit provocative. Master Lan just smiled, glanced at Li Ji, and didn't say anything. This attitude already said it all, which made Doom frown again. Oh, it's better to let him talk to you now. He is the best persuasive guy I have ever seen. Well, maybe the best. Tony praised Li Ji's ability to talk, and simply exposed the matter. And you stole my arc energy design. I'm afraid it will be difficult for me to talk to you calmly. The design of the arc energy is not only mastered by you in this world, genius. Doom emphasized the pronunciation of the word genius, as if he wanted to anger Tony. Whatever you say, Doom. I know you want to provoke me, but now is not the right time to be angry with you. Tony waved his hand and was not angry at Doom's words. Then, Doctor, I think we can continue our conversation. Li Ji did not give Doom the opportunity to continue provoking Tony. I know why you came here, and I also understand what you want to get. But have you ever thought that what you want may not come true at all? Li Ji went straight to the point. Do you understand what I want to do? It's very clear, to resurrect your mother. If I'm not mistaken. Doom glanced at Kingpin, and Kingpin whispered to him. I swear I haven't revealed any information to anyone. There's no need to worry about whether your men have leaked the information. In fact, your purpose is not difficult to guess, Doctor. As long as you know enough clues. It's like a hamburger on the table, ready for anyone to take. Li Ji's words were not polite at all. So what if you understand all this? What's the purpose of a group of people chasing me with such great force? It's very simple. I know what you have done and the purpose of your design to provoke a war. If I am not mistaken, it should be the souls used for trading. And my purpose is very simple, to stop the current war. The Moon Development Plan will make the war situation in Eastern Europe more unstable. You should understand all this, Doctor. The current war is just an appetizer. As long as the spacecraft you built transports the first batch of helium-3 back to Earth, a full-scale war will break out. After listening to what Li Ji said, Doom's mouth corners actually rose slightly, and he said in an approving tone. What you said makes sense, but what if I refuse? Chapter 279, on the verge of breaking out. You make sense, nobody. But why should I stop all this? Doom praised Li Ji, but he didn't seem to be very interested in Li Ji's proposal, which was to stop the war. Everything in this world has a price. If you want to get a reward, you need to pay. And between the rewards and the payment, most of the time, there is no basic fairness between the two. Doom seemed to have not seen the steel mechas around him talking freely. The most basic market rules come from the requirements of supply and demand, and supply and demand are the levers that pry the world. A diesel generator made in Japan can be exchanged for crops or animals, far exceeding its true value on the plains of East Africa. Everything in this world has a price. Don't expect peace and prosperity to fall from the sky. There was a hint of sarcasm in Doom's tone. Why are those Eastern European countries willing to join hands with me? Why are they willing to become a buffer zone between Latvia and Russia? They even use the lives of hundreds of millions of people in their own countries as bargaining chips to help me. You have to understand that there is no love or hate without reason in this world, and there are very few fools who put their fate on others. Doom's words were very straightforward, with a naked cruelty in them. Do you think those countries did not consider the consequences of doing so before forming an alliance with me, reaching a new Eastern European Union, and even pushing millions of people into war? Covered by the mask, Li Ji could not see the smile on Doom's face. No, don't underestimate the leaders of these countries. There may be many fools in this world, but there are also many smart and rational people. The leaders of these countries belong to the latter. All this is their choice. The choice of war was not made by me, but by these people. Of course, it also includes the 5 permanent members of the United Nations, and those other countries who want to watch the fun. Doom's words told the cruel truth. No country is willing to be poor and backward. Eastern Europe has undergone drastic changes, and the Soviet Union has collapsed. Many of these divided countries cannot even produce a qualified TV set now. Lack of resources, lack of technology. There are not enough jobs, and agriculture cannot feed all the people in the country. It must export the original scarce resources in exchange for enough agricultural and sideline products to barely maintain. Political turmoil, public resentment. Many countries are on the verge of a coup. For example, the color revolution, right? Think about who is behind all this. Doom looked around at the people around him. So as I said, for these pathetic countries that cannot see the future, the development of new energy may be their best opportunity for a turnaround. The mining of helium-3 will make the supply price of energy so low that it is unbelievable. And these countries will also benefit from today's actions. Imagine, Tony Stark, you control the arc energy furnace, and turn the human plan to mine helium-3 on the moon from a dream into reality. But how many people can benefit from your plan? Doom looked at Tony with some disdain. You are an American citizen, so you are naturally close to the United States. Although the 5 permanent members of the United Nations, including the United States, may not be able to force you to hand over your arc technology, without their support, your plan to mine the moon is nothing but empty talk, right? And the 5 permanent members of the United Nations seem to have no intention of sharing helium-3 mining with any other country. Although it seems that they have formulated a so-called rule, they themselves do not abide by it at all. Maybe one day in the future, they will give some leftovers to other countries, but jointly developing the moon with them? Just forget it, all they have to do is treat the moon as their private property. Doom's voice was surprisingly loud at the end. And what I did was just to provide another possibility for the distribution of the property belonging to all mankind. There should never be only one knife to cut a cake. Only with choices can there be a future. And Doom's words did work. Everyone at the scene, including Peter and Harry, fell into another kind of thinking, and it can be said that they were completely led by Doom's rhythm. There were not many people who kept a clear mind at the scene, and only Li Ji, Tony and Hank were left. Hank has seen too many storms in his life, so he will not be easily shaken by the words of others. Tony Stark does not trust any politician at all. In addition to being a scientist, Doom is also the monarch of Latvia. In essence, he is also a politician, and a very successful politician. Generally speaking, the more successful a politician is, the more dangerous he is. Because in the field of politics, any mistakes and lack of keenness will lead to ruin. Li Ji is very proficient in telepathy. He can clearly feel that Doom is leading the rhythm from Doom's words. Whether it is avoiding the important or avoiding the topic, Doom always speaks in a good direction for himself. So, this is the doctor you want to talk about. Li Ji smiled. Do you know what the most terrifying thing about human nature is? The fearlessness caused by ignorance, and the various crazy actions caused by fearlessness. You are right. The 5 permanent members of the United Nations are very likely to become what you said. But I also bet that everything you do in the future will not be as warm as you say. What you said is very right. Everything has a price. Before any results are obtained, you have already caused hundreds of thousands of people in Eastern Europe to die in the war, millions of people to be displaced, and the lives of tens of millions of people have been affected. It may even provoke a war in Europe and even the world in the future. Just to get a possible expectation, these people have paid such a heavy price, so heavy that they can no longer withdraw from your plan. And to really get what they want, inexhaustible energy. What a terrible price will they have to pay in the end. No matter how lofty what you say seems, in essence, it is nothing more than a terrible and unequal deal. In this deal, the role you play is even darker than the 5 permanent members of the United Nations. So I warn you one last time. Li Ji's voice finally became very serious. If you don't agree, I will let you stay in hell as the final resting place for your soul. After all, I won't be moved by killing a warmonger who caused the deaths of millions of people. And I mean what I say. As soon as Li Ji finished speaking, all the weapons of the Iron Legion entered the firing state. The war was about to break out. Chapter 280, no matter how much you talk, you still have to fight. So you're saying you're going to kill me here? Doom seemed to have heard a joke. Do you understand what you're doing, boy? You're working for a group of people you don't know and who have no connection with you, and this may cost you your life. So far, Doom's restraint has almost exceeded Li Ji's expectations. This guy who looks like a villain doesn't seem to want to solve all problems in a simple and crude way. Of course, in fact, anyone with an IQ above a certain level understands that it is best not to take action in the current situation. Because the consequences of taking action are difficult to guarantee victory or defeat for both parties. I understand everything I've done. Li Ji tried to persuade Doom for the last time, and he had already explained to others in his communicator that as long as there was no turnaround in the negotiations, then the war would officially begin. If possible, it would be best to capture Doom alive. Of course, if this is really impossible, then the only choice is to kill him. The reason why the world is bright is because someone has driven the darkness into a corner. The years are peaceful because there are others who are carrying the burden forward. I never pin my expectations of life on others. What I hope is that the world will be built and move forward in the direction I expect. I want peace, so I want to create peace. I want prosperity, so I want to guide prosperity. The world should be getting better and better, not worse. So, this is the last question. Doctor, what is your answer? Li Ji's tone has become very cold. Even the wizards who are far away from him can hear the tone like ice. And many people, including Tony and Lan, heard Li Ji's expression of his inner thoughts for the first time. Harry and Peter are 2 people who know something about Li Ji's thoughts. Because when Marvel was founded, Li Ji once told the 2 that he was willing to work hard to change the world. And Li Ji has been fulfilling his promise from beginning to end. Li Ji hopes for a peaceful and quiet life, but he knows that this kind of life will not fall from the sky. Hoping to live a quiet life with family and friends is the greatest ideal, but being a coward and leaving fate to others is never Li Ji's idea. Actively participating in and changing the world, reversing those bad things that are known or unknown and are about to happen, this is Li Ji's idea. Since he knows that some things are not good, Li Ji never expects those bad things to happen. He never cares about the so-called spoiling of the plot, and the nonsense that he has no foresight. Because it is always people who create the future, and all he has to do is to join the army that creates the future. It is precisely because of his positive attitude and his determination to change the world that he can gather so many comrades to fight with him today. Even Peter Parker knew that this action would most likely involve the killing he hated the most, but he still chose to participate. Because when he was in the most difficult time, Li Ji had helped him without hesitation, and now it was time for Li Ji to need the support of others. Including Tony Stark and the mutants, they have all received his favors, no matter how big or small. Doom's applause seemed very abrupt on the desolate plains of hell. All for one, an eye for all. Doom recited the famous quote from the French literary giant Alexandre Dumas' novel The Three Musketeers. I like your character, young man. In some ways, you and I are the same kind of people. We don't want to be bound by the traditional world, and we hope that the world will run according to ideal new rules. Those who stick to the rules are mediocre. The longer a mortal lives, the more shackles he has, while the longer a hero lives, the more freedom he has. You know, I'm beginning to admire you a little. I promise that I won't let anyone kill you later. You have qualities that I admire. Then now. Do it. This sentence was like a signal, and the 2 parties who had already been on the verge of a fight seemed to be waiting for this sound. The buzzing hot melt gun had reached its maximum power, and the orange-red light flashed dazzlingly at the muzzle. The orange-red light scattered by dozens of hot melt guns cut through the sky, appearing extremely dazzling between the black earth and red clouds of hell. With thousands of degrees of high temperature and unique energy fluctuations, they rushed towards their enemies. And hundreds of Gauss rifles of the Iron Legion began to roar at high frequencies. The unique crackling sound produced by the super high current piercing the air continued. And every time the blue arc jumped out of the muzzle, it represented an 8mm gun nail ejected at high speed. They were fast and deadly. If there were still people who thought they were not powerful enough, then the enhanced Hell Destroyer magazine would shut them up. Because the need for human body wearing was eliminated, Tony had more space inside to install weapons or thrusters when designing these mechas. The Hell Destroyer, which was originally huge in size, sacrificed a certain speed and strength in its armor and firepower. In this encirclement, they were at the left end of the Chinese-shaped encirclement. There was a raised hillside here, forming a natural terrace, with an excellent advantage of being high above. Especially when the firepower was pouring down, hundreds of micro-missiles rushed towards their targets like locusts flying all over the sky. Section formation. Master Lan shouted. The Kamartaki mages, who had been prepared before the encirclement, began to form layers of formation outside the Chinese-shaped encirclement. This is hell, and the stability of the mirror wall is far less than that on Earth. As Earth is a super-stable space form, after the mirror wall is opened, two worlds that do not interfere with each other will be formed inside and outside the wall. However, in hell, where the space form is unstable, it is very likely that opening the mirror wall rashly will not play the role of isolating the two worlds inside and outside, but may directly become the opening of a super-large space door. So what Master Lan and his team did this time was not to raise the mirror wall, but to generate a space enclosure, so that the energy that exploded in this magic circle will not overflow. After all, this is hell and it is not far from the city of the dead. If a large-scale and unfamiliar energy explosion occurs, it is likely to attract the attention of the Lord of Hell. You have to know that the distance of thousands of kilometers is really not that far for them. After talking for so long, it seems that we still have to fight. Tony teased Li Ji before joining the battle. I thought you could convince others with your words again. Negotiations don't work every time, especially when dealing with a guy with a firm and stubborn mind. This time we don't have to kill a lot of people. We mainly focus on subduing them. Li Ji answered helplessly, and also emphasized a combat strategy. But there is one thing, the fat man in the huge armor must be caught or killed. Don't ask me why, I will explain it later. Li Ji was ready to kill Kingpin. For this kind of underworld godfather level guy, it is best not to give him any chance. It is best to kill him right away, which is also the safest way. Damon, let the Raider mech you control follow and cover me. Let's kill through their formation directly. Li Ji, wearing power armor, pulled out two electric blades. He was ready for a lightning raid. Chapter 281 Blood Sacrifice. The place where Li Ji and his team surrounded and intercepted Doom and his team was at the gap between the two craters. The only way to see and go to the River of Souls was through this gap. The encirclement set by Li Ji was in the shape of a Chinese character. The firepower was configured according to different needs. The Hell Destroyer had the strongest firepower, but weaker mobility. So it was assigned to the hillside on the left to suppress the firepower from a high position. On the right side of the Chinese character was the containment group composed of the Iron Guardians and the mutants. Right in front of the gap into the crater was the assault group composed of Li Ji and his team and the Raider mech with the strongest speed assault capability. The encirclement on both ends was like a huge iron clamp, clamping the space for Doom and his team to retreat. If you want to break out to the left or right, you will not only hit the encirclement, but more importantly, there are huge craters at the end of both places. The pitch-black rocks towered into the clouds, standing tall as if they were holding up the red clouds above their heads. The shape of these mountains was like a sharp sword blade. It can be said that there was no room for turning back after hitting them. The best breakthrough point is the direction where Li Ji is. Because Doom's goal is to cross this mountain pass and go to the River of Souls. And Li Ji has already made preparations here. Tony Stark made some small changes to his new electric blade. The room for change is not large, because it is limited by the size and usage characteristics of this weapon. The manufacturing drawings provided by the system are already a fairly complete manufacturing method. However, Tony still made some useful improvements. The biggest improvement is the improvement of energy supply. The original electric blade is powered by an energy module. Although its power is not to be underestimated, it has a problem of insufficient endurance and explosive power. Tony deliberately improved this point because of the deepening of the cooperative relationship. He is no longer simply providing Li Ji with the arc energy module, a disposable portable energy source. Instead, he has specially designed an arc reactor suitable for this weapon for the electric blade. It is hidden inside the blade. This greatly enhances the practicality of the electric blade, and the continuous and powerful energy supply makes the blades of the two electric blades jump with dazzling arcs. Because the energy was stronger than before, the jumping arcs also looked thicker. The dazzling blue-white light was more conspicuous in contrast to the pitch-black earth. The ninjas of the Shuhei had already left too far away from here, and it was too late to return for help. Even if they wanted to return for help, they would probably be powerless. The closer they got to the River of Souls, the more ninjas with broken souls fell. Their broken souls had been directly sucked into the River of Souls and thrown into reincarnation. The defense that Doomside could organize on the scene was entirely dependent on the 80 elite guards he brought with him. They all wore armor with performance that was not inferior to Li Ji's single soldier power skeleton. At the same time, they also held a hot melt gun with strong enough lethality in their hands. The only drawback was that as a thermal light energy weapon, it had serious restrictions on use within the atmosphere. The attack range was suppressed, and the combat environment that this weapon was truly suitable for was the vacuum environment outside the atmosphere. Of course, in addition to Doom's personal guards, there was another group of important people, the Yin-Yang Masters brought by Kingpin. It seems that during the period when he was in control of the Hand and the Society, he had completely controlled the most important forces in this group of Hand and the Society. The number of Onmyages who came this time was as many as hundreds of people, almost draining all the backbone forces of the Hand and the Society. In terms of individual strength, the Onmyages of the Hand and the Society are not as strong as those of the mages of Kamartaki. Because Kamartaki has perfected and summarized a set of effective and systematic education methods in the past few hundred years. The training method of Onmyages is still the ancient self-cultivation. At the same time, Kamartaki has the strongest human Guyan mage on Earth sitting in charge. His little teaching to his disciples can benefit people a lot, which is completely incomparable to this group of self-exploring Onmyages. However, when the number reaches a certain level, these Onmyages will also be very troublesome. Because unlike mages, the greatest ability of this group of Onmyages is not to rely on individuals to cast powerful spells, but the ability to drive Shikigami. And most of these Shikigami are monsters from hell or other different dimensions. Because under the castle of the Hand and the Society, there is a space entrance to hell. It is possible for these Onmyaji to sign various contracts with the monsters in these different dimensions. The way to gain power here is similar to that of the mages of the Greenwich faction. The Onmyaji themselves may not be strong. Many of them are mortals, and their physical fitness is completely incomparable to that of the mages of Kamartaki, who can be called humanoid weapons. But the Shikigami they summon are not weak at all. The inheritance of the Onmyaji of the Hand and the Society comes from Abe Hiruiki, a great Onmyaji in the Heian period of the East more than 1,000 years ago. Abe Hiruiki is not good at space magic, but he has a unique way to communicate the connection between two different worlds, and this magic is called Onmyaji by him. In Hell, this place with a very unstable space state, it is easier for these Onmyaji to cast this kind of magic to summon Shikigami. When the first Onmyaji used his specially built long and sharp little fingernail to cut his veins, Li Ji had already found something wrong. "Damon, let your raiders cooperate with me. We have to kill through their formation." Li Ji had a bad idea when he saw these guys. After all, in TV movies, when blood sacrifice is used to summon something, it is usually a big boss. Li Ji does not have the gentlemanly demeanor of the TV male protagonist who watches the show leisurely and waits for the other party to finish everything before starting the fight. So when the first Yin-Yang master began to summon Shikigami with a blood sacrifice spell, and other Yin-Yang masters immediately followed his actions and did the same, Li Ji's first thought was to kill all these damn guys immediately. However, the Yin-Yang masters are now protected by the small Shikigami they summoned before and Doom's personal guards. If they want to kill these guys, they must first break through this layer of defense. Li Ji's electric blade has been adjusted to the cutting mode, and the arc that was jumping on the blade no longer jumps irregularly. Instead, it began to gather energy towards the blade. "Understood, Nightwalker. I will form the arrowhead charge. 10 raiders will use Frank's firepower to cover the attack from the right, creating an illusion of a strong attack. Damon's words came from the communicator. I will coordinate with Frank on this aspect, and the real main attack direction I will focus on the central front direction. You will act together with the raider Mitcha. Understood. Tony, give me a harassment. Li Ji indicated that he understood, and also asked Tony to harass him before the raid. Understood. Tony replied. The Shikigami currently summoned by the Yin-Yang Masters are not very powerful, but there are many of them. It will cause a lot of trouble to people. Bart knows a lot of these demons. These are Jade demons, a branch of the rock demon species. The body is very hard and the power is very strong, but the action is not fast enough. Demon Bart stayed beside Master Lan and introduced these demons in a casual manner. The Jade demon he mentioned actually did not see anything related to the word Jade at all. Instead, it looked more like a stone man with green moss and a height of more than 2 meters. This is a burning unknown bird, its flame is hard to put out. Several slender birds with extremely fast flying speed and burning flames all over their bodies caused trouble for everyone. When Peter Parker tied up a Jade demon with spider silk, his clothes were almost set on fire by this bird flying by. Oh, this is a subspecies of the fire demon, the lava man. It's been a long time since I saw this creature in hell. Bart seemed to have seen something that made him very excited, and his eyes began to shine. He was so knowledgeable that he didn't look like an ordinary demon. Lan was controlling the hub of the formation and glanced at Bart with his peripheral vision. Charge. Damon's voice came from Li Ji's communicator. It seemed that he had arranged everything. The attack on the right began, accompanied by the fire suppression of Frank's Hell Destroyers, and it seemed to be unstoppable. A large number of Shikigami were controlled by their masters to fill the defense line on the right. And this gave Li Ji the best opportunity. When Li Ji started to act, the 15 raiders controlled by Damon followed closely behind Li Ji, preparing to pierce through the outermost defense circle at super speed and subdue all the Yin-Yang Masters inside. The most surprising thing was Doom. He seemed to be smiling under the mask, and he didn't seem to worry about his precarious defense line at all. King Bing, don't you want to try your new toy? I'm curious who made your armor for you. Doom touched King Bing's sturdy armor with his hand with a hint of meaning. Everyone has secrets, don't they, Doctor? King Bing simply smiled and answered Doom, and then controlled his armor to leave. The raiding team led by Li Ji broke through the already loose outermost defense line of the Shikigami like a hot knife cutting through butter. The electric blade with strong cutting force is not much more difficult to cut off those monsters than cutting off ordinary pieces of meat, even if they look like they have hard outer armor. The high-frequency vibration particle knife equipped by the raiders is also not bad. Tony uses the special properties of high-frequency vibration particles to cover the surface of the blade, relying on the chain-cutting effect formed by the rapid vibration between molecules, so that the knife has super strong cutting ability. Just as Li Ji's assault team was breaking through the inner layer of the Yin-Yang Master, a huge black figure rushed down from the sky. Jin Bing operated his mecha and made an exaggerated jump. Like a god descending from heaven, the black armor was sturdy and tall, standing in front of people like a hill, blocking the way of Li Ji and others. Chapter 282, The Mutated Purple Thunder. The mecha as big as a hill blocked Li Ji's way forward. The mecha operated by Jin Bing was extremely tall, but it also had amazing bounce and explosive power. The matte black surface hardly reflected any dazzling light, and the head design like a cyclops was its unique monitor. The entire mecha itself did not have a design similar to a human palm, but instead designed powerful firepower equipment in the part that should have been a palm, such as rapid-fire weapons with high firing rate and high armor penetration, and more than a dozen high-explosive rockets. The dark and gloomy armor and the one-eyed monitor emitting red light added a touch of ferocity to the entire armor. Just in time. Li Ji would not disrupt his offensive rhythm because of a big eye falling from the sky. After so many battles, he has become an experienced fighter. He understands that in the process of fighting, if his rhythm is disrupted by others, it will cause a lot of trouble. Especially in this form of charge, a rash move to stop moving forward is likely to bring serious consequences. Almost as a subconscious reaction, Li Ji raised his left arm, and the high-frequency oscillator gun that had been embedded in the left arm of his power exoskeleton had already been in a state of energy storage, and the energy accumulation had already reached its peak value. At the moment when the high-frequency oscillation gun was fired, a strange wave of fluctuations centered on Li Ji's left arm was emitted in the air. It was like a stone thrown into the lake, and then the water ripples were swayed. The air began to vibrate at this moment, and the scenery in front of Li Ji began to distort. This was because the shock wave of the high-frequency oscillation caused some molecules and atoms in the air to produce violent friction and vibration, thus affecting the reflection of light, and finally projected into the pupils to form a visual deception. With abundant energy, the shock wave continuously turned up the black rock layers on the ground, as if an invisible giant python passed by here. To be honest, Jin was different from Doom, because he actually knew this person, Li Ji. Nightwalker, the Dark Knight protector of the streets of New York. Actively fighting against various street crimes, including the 5th and 6th blocks in Queens, and various criminal gangs in Brooklyn and the Bronx have been taken care of by Nightwalker or his friends. Including his acquisition of the Stanich family's industry, a large part of it was because of the Nightwalker's wanton destruction of the Stanich family, which made it difficult for Franco Stanich to move in New York, so that Jin Bing was able to acquire his company at a price that was almost cabbage. Of course, there is also the Battle of the Hand and the Society. Although Jin Bing left New York that night, he also heard rumors afterwards that the Nightwalker led a group of people to eliminate the New York headquarters of the Hand and the Society, which had been rooted in Hell's Kitchen for a long time. To be honest, Jin Bing has never thought of provoking Li Ji, because the two of them have no conflict of interest in essence, and Jin Bing is a very realistic person. He will not provoke a person who looks troublesome without a real conflict of interest. Especially when there are a group of guys around him who are not easy to provoke like him. But sometimes, some things are not easy to avoid just because you want to avoid them. For example, in this trip to hell, in Kingpin's opinion, there are only two groups of people who are most motivated to stop all these things. One is the magicians of Kamartaki mentioned by Doom. Doom has already told Kingpin about the Supreme Mage on the way, because they have the responsibility to protect the Earth's space, and it is very likely that their unauthorized entry into hell will lead to their opposition. The other is Tony Stark. After all, Doom's spaceship also uses the arc reactor. Kingpin still believes that Doom's arc reactor should have stolen Tony's research results. He doesn't know that there is a little man named Ivan in the world who has made such a shocking invention. So Kingpin has always felt that Tony has a reason to trouble Doom. But he could never have expected that the leader of this incident was actually a guy who seemed to have nothing to do with this matter, Nightwalker. Of course, he didn't know that in addition to looking for Doom, Li Ji's most important purpose in this trip was actually to find him. Kingpin is Li Ji's primary target on the mission. No matter what he wants to do, Li Ji doesn't want him to succeed. Li Ji's reaction speed was too fast. His high-frequency shockwave hit Kingpin's mecha just before it landed and had not yet stood firm. Buzz! The collision between the shockwave and the large mecha was like the sound of a bell. The huge sound made people's eardrums begin to resonate with such a frequency. Kingpin, who had not had time to react, was knocked back several steps in succession. However, the firmness of this mecha was somewhat unexpected. Because the more parts are connected to a machine, the lower its stability. Under high-frequency resonance, it is very likely that the parts will loosen, and further form the possibility of the entire structure falling apart. However, Kingpin's mecha only retreated several steps, but there was no sign of falling apart. Damn it, Nightwalker, you are looking for death. The internal buffer of the mecha is very good, otherwise the shockwave of the direct hit just now may directly kill Kingpin. After all, he is just a mortal, although his physical fitness is extremely outstanding, and even in terms of strength, he can be compared with some mutants who have undergone mutations. Kingpin got angry for the first time, and the consequence of his anger was that the rapid-fire weapon installed on the mecha's hand began to fire at maximum. This rapid-fire weapon looks a bit like a Gatling gun, and it also has 6 rotating barrels. However, its rate of fire is more fierce than that of a Gatling gun of the same caliber. The two 6-barrel rotary machines formed an overwhelming rain of fire, and it can be seen that even the bullets are specially made. They are not simple brass bullets or steel core armor-piercing bullets. Li Ji suspected that this guy might use a bullet similar to that made of adamantium alloy. Of course, this seems a bit extravagant, and it is more likely that it is made of secondary adamantium alloy. Because the penetration and destructive power of these bullets are quite amazing. With the help of the fire control system, Kingpin actually found and almost captured a Raider mecha. The crazy firepower output formed a dense rain of fire. In just a few seconds, hundreds of bullets hit this poor mecha. Although Jarvis and Damon were trying hard to operate the machine and get rid of the dense fire net, They ended in failure. Because it only took 10 bullets for Kingpin to pierce the outer armor of this mecha. Although the Raider has the thinnest armor among the three mechas. And because of time constraints, this batch of Iron Legion did not use gold titanium alloy or secondary adamantium alloy as armor on a large scale. Instead, it used the highest end armor used by the military, titanium alloy armor as outer armor. But it only took 10 bullets to tear open the titanium alloy armor, which is known as the strongest armor of the US military. This also shows how powerful the weapon used by Kingpin is. Do you think we have seen this kind of weapon before? Lee Ji felt as if he had seen the weapon used by Kingpin, so when he was dodging Kingpin's firepower shooting, he took the time to ask Damon. Yes, I feel familiar too. The firing rate of ordinary gunpowder kinetic weapons can hardly reach this level. Damon said, and he was desperately operating other Raider mechas with the assistance of Jarvis. Remember the rapid-fire rifle you brought us last time? It beat Spider-Man so hard that he couldn't even lift his head, and even his spider sense couldn't find a gap. Yes, I remember. I think these two weapons should be from the same organization. This kind of weapon is not something that everyone can produce. I'm afraid that neither the Osborn Group nor the Stark Group has reached this level in the research and development of light rapid-fire weapons. Damon spoke highly of this rapid-fire weapon. Mike is doing reverse engineering research on this weapon. He said he wants to make a similar weapon. Okay, I wish Mike success. But let me deal with the big guy in front of me first. Lee Ji was not very optimistic about Mike's research on similar weapons. Because of a Kingpin's obstruction, Lee Ji's raid was temporarily hindered. He decided not to waste time on Kingpin. Anyway, he was also the target of the mission, so he could just kill him directly. Once he had this idea, Lee Ji was not prepared to hold back. Although it would consume a lot of power every time he used the Purple Thunder 9 strike, this move was his highest attack power so far. Moreover, after Thor's words and Max the Electric Man's test, Lee Ji now knows that the Purple Thunder he released is probably different from ordinary thunder and lightning. Thor said that this should be called the Thunder of Destruction. He has traveled all over the universe and fought against many gods. Except for Odin, he has never seen this kind of power in anyone else. And Lee Ji is the only one who has this power besides Odin, which makes Lee Ji very clear that the Purple Thunder 9 strikes are extraordinary. With this thought, Lee Ji's Purple Thunder energy instantly swarmed out of his body. The electric blade, which was originally emitting blue and white electric light, changed color instantly. The purple violent thunder dragon climbed up the blade, and the most primitive destructive breath when the world was first created began to emanate. I don't know if it's because of being in hell, Lee Ji feels that the purple thunder power he is controlling now seems to have become more violent. When the purple lightning spreads on the blade, the breath of destruction permeates the whole venue. This is a kind of power that comes from the most fearful and throbbing heart. Doom, who had been calm all along, looked in the direction of Lee Ji with astonishment, while Bart, who had been explaining various types of demons to Lan, suddenly shut up and widened his eyes. The red clouds in the sky seemed to be stirred by someone, spreading irregularly. Storm, who is very sensitive to the power of lightning, felt that she had lost contact with all the lightning in an instant. Jin Bing, who was facing Lee Ji head-on, had an illusion at this moment, feeling as if he saw the scene of the collapse of the world, which was a fear from the bottom of his heart. Even the others who had seen Lee Ji perform this move did not feel very comfortable. Is he stronger now? Peter Parker said in an uncertain tone, and he didn't know who he was asking. I don't know, but I feel like something is about to collapse. Harry felt terrible. Sir, the current space readings are showing an abnormal rising stage. Do you want to record the data? Jarvis, as a mechanical butler, dutifully reminded Tony. Record. Tony said almost subconsciously. The only people who were not affected were probably Lee Ji and the Yin Yang Master Group. However, Lee Ji himself felt uncomfortable, as if something was about to jump out of his chest. This space of hell was full of all kinds of weirdness. Because the Yin Yang Masters used the blood sacrifice technique, they cut off the connection with the outside world and did not notice what was happening. Just when Lee Ji was about to launch the Spring Thunder Blast, the Yin Yang Masters had just completed their blood sacrifice summons. A monster with hellfire burning all over its body, bat wings, cow hooves and scorpion tail appeared on the scene. If Bart took a look at this guy now, he would definitely recognize that this was a high-level demon in hell, the Flame Demon. Chapter 283 Uninvited Guests. Jin Bing was not prepared to fight Lee Ji head-on. His appearance was to delay time. Now that the flame demon has been summoned successfully, in the face of this powerful aura of destruction, Jin Bing is not prepared to use his mecha to fight Li Ji head-on. After all, he is not a fool. He knows very well what can be resisted and what cannot be resisted. Without Jin Bing's words, those yin-yang masters already know the dilemma Jin Bing is facing now. The flame demon, who is over 5 meters tall and burning with a never-extinguished hellfire, strides towards Li Ji. This high-level demon has a speed that is inconsistent with his size. Now Li Ji faces two choices. One is to chop Jin Bing with a spring thunder explosion regardless of the consequences, but the price is that he will be directly hit by the powerful flame demon. There may be a possibility of death. The other choice is to chop the flame demon directly with a spring thunder explosion, which may give Jin Bing a chance to escape. In the subconscious of almost everyone, protecting themselves is the first priority. Between the choice of flame demon and kingpin, Li Ji's body almost subconsciously slashed a knife full of destructive breath at his former flame demon. The purple thunder of Purgatory Mad Dragon reappeared in the world, more powerful than any previous time. The furious purple thunder poured towards the flame demon with the force of overturning the river and the sea. Flame demon. At the moment when the flame demon appeared, Lan could hardly suppress his shocked voice. This creature did not need Bart to introduce it. Lan also knew what it was. These were different from the small Shikigami controlled by the Onmyaji before. They were all subspecies of some powerful demons, and it was really difficult to identify them. But the flame demon was the real deal, a high-level hell demon. In the teaching knowledge of Kamarteji, this kind of demon was mentioned many times. Lan knew very well how powerful this demon was. Take over my position as the center of the formation. Lan shouted to another Kamarteji mage. Although Li Ji had already chopped out the spring thunder explosion in his hand, Lan did not think that this attack could kill the flame demon. Although the power of that kind of destructive thunder was indeed great. How could these yin-yang masters summon such a powerful monster? Lan muttered to herself in disbelief. You know, even the Greenwich faction mages who gain power by communicating with multiple planes can hardly control a flame demon. Even if these yin-yang masters have an advantage in numbers, demons of this strength cannot be easily controlled simply by relying on the advantage of numbers. Li Ji's spring thunder explosion hit the burly flame demon as expected. The purple thunder dragon with a destructive aura was like a cannonball, and the collision with the flame demon was like a storm of lightning and fire. It's not that the flame demon is so stupid that he can't even dodge, but because Lan recruited someone to replace her position at the center of the formation, and cooperated with Li Ji's attack to play a coordinated attack. Among all the mages present, only the space confinement spell she mastered was cast. Although the special form of hell is not stable, the strength of space confinement spells is not high. But it still made the flame demon's actions stagnate. However, even though the lightning of the spring thunder blast completely struck the flame demon, it still did not achieve the effect that Li Ji wanted. Fuxk. Li Ji could not help but curse. Because when the lightning dissipated, the flame demon still stood there intact. And he just had the hellfire weakened, and it seemed that some of his strength was consumed. However, the flame demon seemed to be unable to attack, just standing there, letting the yin-yang master urge him. He did not move. Li Ji felt that if he did not use the thunder blade given by Loki, the strongest purple thunder 9 strikes he could make at present would be just like this. But what surprised Li Ji was why his purple thunder 9 strikes would become stronger in hell. This is a very difficult problem to understand. Although part of it is because the new lightning blade has the energy of the arc as a supply, Li Ji still thinks that the biggest problem should come from the special terrain of hell. Maybe there is some unknown secret hidden here. And just when Li Ji was about to take advantage of the flame demon standing there and attacking, suddenly, a black feather fell from the sky and fell in front of Li Ji. And this feather seemed to be not a physical entity, but just made of energy. The moment it touched the ground, it instantly disintegrated. Then the second and third feathers fell from the sky. These feathers made of energy formed a black snow. Black feathers. Li Ji didn't remember which of these monsters had black feather wings. It seems that this battle can't be won. Bart glanced at the sky and muttered to himself. Lan, who is maintaining the space confinement spell, seemed to have noticed something. She quickly glanced at the sky. And more people also found the pressure coming from above their heads. When Li Ji looked up, he saw a man with huge wings standing in the sky. Although he was far away and couldn't see his face clearly. But from his appearance, He looked very similar to the legendary angel, but the legendary angel had a pair of white wings, and this man had a pair of pure black wings. Fallen angel Lucifer. Almost in an instant, Luigi thought of this legendary figure, although he was not very sure. But even if it wasn't Lucifer, Luigi was sure that this angel with pure black wings was very strong, because the Shikigami monsters on the ground were already trembling and dared not move. In hell, demons have a strict hierarchy. Low-level demons absolutely obey high-level demons, and the Lord of Hell is almost the highest level of existence in hell. When this black-winged angel appeared, the scene fell into depressing silence. All the battles had stopped, and almost everyone's eyes were on this guy who suddenly appeared. It looks like my pet has taken a little injury. The black-winged angel slowly descended from the sky, and his target was the flame demon that was hit by Luigi. He descended from the sky, like an angel descending to earth, without any fireworks. Black wings, handsome face, and impeccable and perfect manners, like a well-educated gentleman. Lucifer. Bart also murmured beside Lan. It seems that this man is Lucifer. Lucifer slowly landed beside the flame demon, and his hand gently touched the flame demon's body. Huh? He made a slight sound, as if he had discovered something incredible. Lan, who had cast a spell on the flame demon from a distance, was struck by lightning. Puff. A mouthful of blood spit out from Lan's mouth, and the splashing blood also stained some of her clothes red. The flame demon, who had released the spell, was not as unharmed as he looked. The flame demon's throat kept squirming, and the last mouthful of lava blood with a scorching temperature flowed out from the corner of his mouth. There's a breath of destruction? Is it related to that old guy Odin? Lucifer looked at Luigi in confusion. But it doesn't matter, at least I can still see a friend I want to see. Johnny Blaze, welcome to hell. I have made many sincere invitations to you, but you have always refused. Unexpectedly, you actually came here on your own initiative this time. I am very excited about this. Maybe you can visit my palace. Lucifer didn't care about the people around him, as if he treated them as air, and smiled at Johnny Blaze, who had transformed into the Ghost Rider. When no one noticed, he took a light step and crossed several kilometers to Johnny Blaze's side, looking like he was going to take him away by force. Just when he was about to leave, an accident happened. Lucifer, maybe when you take my people away, you should say hello to me and ask if I agree. A rather warm voice suddenly came from all directions. Although the voice sounded very warm, Lucifer's face changed and frowned. Really? Mephisto. I don't remember what the Ghost Rider has to do with you. They are all products of heaven. Are you talking about the immortal Jehovah? I guess you must know something, so you ran from heaven to this desolate hell. Isn't it? Hearing such a conversation, Luigi knew that this trip to hell might not be simple. The big shots who were not originally wanted to be involved have already come. And from what Lucifer said, the flame demon that Kingpin asked the Yin-Yang Master to summon belongs to him. It seems that Kingpin has colluded with Lucifer. And now Mephisto has also appeared, although he has not yet appeared. The plan that had been arranged was interrupted by such an uninvited guest. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 284 The Negotiation Broke Down? You see, when people think they can control everything, reality often plays a big joke on them. For example, the scene now. Mephisto, the Lord of Hell and also the Lord of Lies, did not make as impressive an appearance as the fallen angel Lucifer. He did not use a black energy feather to make a very gorgeous opening for himself, nor did he have any pretentious actions and words. For him who works for death, everything in this world will be silent and return to death. So when it is not necessary, Mephisto is always low-key and unbelievable. In other words, the greatest weapon of a good liar is to be low-key and convincing. Mephisto did very well in this regard. Like an old gentleman returning from afar, he always seems to be dressed like this. He slowly walked over from the gap between the two craters. It seems that Lan's formation did not play a role in isolation. Luigi looked at Lan from a distance and found that she was injured. There was still blood at the corner of her mouth, and her face looked a little sluggish. Lan, how are you? Luigi couldn't help but ask Lan about her injuries through the communicator, because she looked seriously injured. It's not a big problem, just a small backlash of the spell. Lucifer doesn't seem to have the desire to hurt me intentionally. Lan exhaled a breath of turbid air and said so. Judging from the sound, Lan didn't seem to be injured that seriously. Lucifer hurt Lan without making a sound just now, which was really unexpected. This also cast a shadow on Li Ji's mind. As a demon, why don't you show your true self? Instead, you use your human disguise. Lucifer saw Mephitis coming from a distance, and he seemed a little afraid. Lucifer left Johnny Blaze and returned to the side of the Balrog. Since spitting out the blood with a burning magma, the Balrog looked a little listless. On the other side, Kingpin made an amazing move. In this dangerous hell, he actually took off his armor and walked towards Lucifer as a mortal. And he performed a strange salute to Lucifer. The salute was very exaggerated and weird. It reminded Li Ji of the voodoo sects that were popular in some areas of the southern United States. Those sects that worship various strange evil gods. It seems that our situation is not very good. Peter Parker's spider sense was about to explode. He said so through his communicator. Yes, so we need another backup plan. Tony. Li Ji said to Tony through the communicator. Is the big killer you mentioned ready? Of course, it's always ready. Although I don't really want to use it, God knows how much damage it will cause. But if it's hell, I think I can try to use it. Tony's tone was a little serious. On the other hand, I didn't expect that your belief is actually the fallen angels. Doom looked at Kingpin's actions and said with a little ridicule. Do you hope that the kingdom of God you convert to after death is hell? Although Doom had known that Kingpin and Lucifer were connected before, he didn't expect that Kingpin actually converted to Lucifer. And not only him, but also the yin-yang masters of the hand and society seemed to have changed their beliefs. They performed uniform movements and seemed to have become believers of Lucifer. Yes, this Lord is a true God, and not so hypocritical. Jin Bing did not take Doom's ridicule to heart. Of course, to be honest, if possible, Jin Bing did not want to contact Lucifer at this time. Yes, he contacted Lucifer, and it was not because there was a problem with Lan's magic circle and Lucifer discovered it. The flame demon is a high-level demon pet around Lucifer. Summoning the flame demon itself is equivalent to notifying Lucifer. Especially in hell. The summoning of the flame demon was because of the appearance of Li Ji and others, which disrupted Jin Bing's plan. Now all of Jin Bing's plans are difficult to carry out, because the appearance of Lucifer itself was not in his design, or it should not appear at this time. Although Jin Bing told Lucifer that he needed to come to hell. B-level mission, stop Jin Bing's ambition mission completed. The host will randomly obtain a B-level prop. The long-lost system voice appeared in Li Ji's mind. At the same time, this system also sincerely informs the host that with the current strength of the host, it is in hell, and the risk factor is extremely high. Please leave here as soon as possible. Huh? So the mission is completed? Li Ji was a little confused. Why did Lucifer appear and Jin Bing's mission was completed? Could it be that Jin Bing's ambition is not to unify the underground underworld in the real world, but to plant a demon in hell? Maybe Jin Bing's trip to hell this time should be kept secret, but in the end he had to leak the secret, causing his plan to fail. Jin Bing is too bold. So this human is your friend. Lucifer did not seem to blame him for Doom's tone, but asked Jin Bing with interest. Yes, to some extent. Jin Bing said this, with a respectful tone. Then what is your purpose in coming to hell, and why do you want to fight in hell? Lucifer looked around at Li Ji and Doom and his group. Although there are all kinds of meaningless battles in hell every day, and many demons will die. But it is rare for humans to use hell as a battlefield. Lucifer seemed very interested. Maybe I can explain, Lucifer. This Mr. Doom should be looking for me. Mephistus did not reveal his demon body, he still moved in the image of an elderly human gentleman. Although it seemed that he was just walking slowly, he came to Doom's side at an incredibly fast speed. Mr. Doom, it seems that your purpose of coming to hell should be for your mother's soul? If I am not mistaken. Does this mean that you agree with my previous proposal? For some reason, Li Ji felt that there was some expectation in Mephistus' tone. Li Ji was on the side. It seems that we have been completely ignored. Tony said to all his companions through the communicator. He is not a guy who likes to be ignored. He prefers to stand in the center of the stage and enjoy the spotlight. Don't you think that it is a good thing that we are ignored now? Li Ji smiled indifferently. I think what you said makes sense. Tony thought about it. He didn't want to be targeted by two big demons. The best way was to keep a low profile. Doom was on the side. I think I still can't agree to your terms, Mephitis. But I can give you something you want. Doom's answer disappointed Mephitis. There are 350,000 souls here. I know you have been collecting them. I am willing to exchange my mother's soul for 350,000 souls. I hope you will set her free. Doom took out 3 identical metal balls from the box on his waist. This is a special soul imprisonment device. Haha. Mephitis seemed to be amused by Doom. The old gentleman laughed so hard that he could hardly straighten his waist, and tears flowed down his face. Others had no idea what he was laughing at. Dr. Doom, I think you haven't figured out one thing yet. Mephitis finally stopped his hysterical laughter. Any deal with the devil can only be made by the devil. You are not qualified to make a deal with me. Don't challenge my patience, Doctor. Mephitis emphasized the last sentence, indicating that he was not joking. Mephitis, please understand, the great devil. No one has ever been able to threaten Doom, never. Please don't challenge my patience. Doom's tone was as cold as ice. He didn't seem to take Mephitis, the powerful lord of hell, seriously at all. If you are not satisfied with this exchange, I think you will be satisfied with the next exchange. What is the condition? Either release my mother, or let me blow up hell. Choose one of the two, great devil. You have to understand that Doom always keeps his word. A gap appeared in the place that had been surrounded by a group of guards, and a huge box could be seen surrounded by them. And Doom's tone was very serious and didn't seem to be joking. It seemed that he really prepared a weapon to blow up hell. Li Ji and Tony looked at each other from a distance and whistled at the same time. It looks like Doom is a lunatic. Li Ji sighed. But you're not bad either. Tony complained. Don't forget who asked me to make the same thing. I just want to maintain deterrence. Come on, your plan won't be much less crazy than Doom. Chapter 285 Aboda? In order to increase his persuasiveness, Doom deliberately activated some of the energy fluctuations of the space bomb he made. He knew that with Mephitis' sensitivity to energy, he knew very well what this slight energy fluctuation represented. I know, Mephitis. Those who make deals with the devil must always be vigilant. Because behind all the tempting deals, there may be traps that are enough to kill people. Doom said slowly. So I gave you 2 choices. One is that you will get so many souls. The other is to completely blow up your hell territory. Doom's words made Mephitis lose his image. This big devil who originally maintained his image in the form of an old gentleman finally became furious. Because of his understanding of Doom, he knew that what Doom said must be true. But it was precisely because he knew that what Doom said was true that he found it even more difficult to accept. Doom. You are looking for death? Mephitis was furious, and his human disguise finally couldn't be maintained. The true body of the devil was revealed in front of everyone. Red skin and red cloak, and countless souls seemed to be dancing in the golden eyes. The messy hair looks like it has never been taken care of course, it may be because it is not easy to take care of. Because there are tiny barbs on each hair. The sharp teeth are like vampires, and the sharp claws remind people of ancient creatures in the Triassic period, such as the front claws of velociraptors. It must be said that Mephitis' appearance conforms to everyone's stereotype of the devil. Of course, except for the ears. His ears are very strange. They are not like the devil ears in mythological murals, but look a bit like the legendary elf ears. Maybe Mephitis has elf blood? No one really knows this. You can try to attack me, Mephitis. As long as I get a little hurt, the space bomb will explode. Doom still has that infuriating tone. Ho ha ho ha. Lucifer, who was standing with Kingpin, suddenly laughed loudly. It was more hearty than Mephitis' hysterical laughter just now. Mephistus, I have long guessed that you have found a spokesperson on Earth. But I never thought that you would find such a terrible and difficult to control spokesperson. And now he has come to hell with terrible weapons to threaten you. This is really ridiculous. Lucifer laughed at Mephistus mercilessly. As the former archangel, Lucifer had many confrontations with Mephistus during his years in heaven, and the relationship between the two was not very good. Don't forget that you are also a member of hell now. If he is going to do this, you will also become a homeless stray dog. Mephistus said angrily. Lucifer shrugged as if he didn't care. In fact, he really didn't care. He was not a native, a creature of hell, and he had no sense of belonging to hell. He came to hell just because he discovered a secret of Jehovah. It was also because of this secret that he betrayed his faith and betrayed the Father Jehovah. Well, apart from Mr. Doom, who is causing trouble for you, I am more curious about why these friends came to hell. This is not a playground for humans. Especially among them, there are mages from Comartiki. Lucifer ignored Mephitis. Instead, he turned his eyes to Li Ji and others. It would be silly to keep the encirclement in the shape of a triangle. Obviously, these two big men will not be knocked down simply by using some Guaz weapons. Although the treaty with Ancient One does not clearly state that his apprentices are not allowed to enter hell, but for such a large-scale entry, I think you still need to give us an explanation. Or a reasonable excuse. Otherwise, it will be difficult for us leaders to explain to the people below. Lucifer said this with a smile, as if there was room for bargaining. It seems that he really doesn't care about hell. Moreover, Li Ji and others have no conflicts with him at all, and he doesn't want to get entangled with Ancient One. After all, Ancient One has killed many demons, so he has a completely negotiable face. He didn't have the demeanor of a Hell Lord at all. Maybe another reason was that Li Ji brought Johnny Blaze to him? Look, respected Lord Lucifer. We are not enemies of hell. We have never hurt any creature in hell. At this moment, only Li Ji stepped forward and said, "We just want to have a good talk with Dr. Doom. Because he messed up the Earth. In order to solve the problems on the Earth, we chased him here." So, Li Ji shrugged. "We don't have too much bad intentions." Li Ji added silently in his heart, "At least not now. But it seems that Mr. Doom, who has a good temper, has no desire to talk to you. It seems that he is a very stubborn guy who dares to contradict even the big devil of hell." Lucifer stroked his pure black wings with one hand and said softly, "Yes, so I also prepared a gift for this Mr. Doom. I know that the purpose of his coming to hell is to save his mother and to revive her." Li Ji also seemed to be very leisurely. "What gift?" "A gift like the one he brought to Mephitis. If he really doesn't want the Earth to return to the right path, then I'm afraid I can only add a little trouble to hell and make him lose his mother forever." At Li Ji's signal, Tony had already activated the special device he made. It was a special device hidden in 3 mechas that needed to be manually operated by Tony before it could be activated. The source of inspiration for the design came from the hammer sleeping under the Arctic ice cap. Asgard's special artifact, the weapon of the god of terror. It has been emitting terrible fluctuations. Tony has calculated it. If the power of this artifact is released at once, it is enough to completely blow the Earth to pieces, in the physical sense. After all, Asgard's artifacts often have the energy of a star built into them. Although time is limited, Tony cannot truly restore the true power of the Hammer of Terror. He can only use a large number of arc reactors to superimpose extreme overloads, and the high-frequency energy radiation formed in a specific mode as a killing force. Compared to the real Hammer of Terror, there is still a huge gap. But it was enough for this action, because the real horror of this weapon comes from high-frequency energy radiation. This kind of thing is nothing to the flesh and the soul protected by the flesh, but it is fatal to the pure soul without any protection in hell. And the most terrifying thing is that this energy radiation will not dissipate for a long time. And it will drift around like radiation, enough to turn the whole hell into a place without souls. If we wait for the radiation to dissipate naturally, it will probably take more than 10 years. After listening to what Li Ji said, Lucifer laughed so hard that he fell backwards. And he clapped his hands vigorously there. "Ho ha ho ha. You two are the craziest and most interesting humans I have met in thousands of years. And your companions, there are actually people willing to accompany you in this way. Ha ha ha." At this time, Lucifer laughed very crazily, without the grace and elegance of an angel. Not only is Dharma invading hell now, but there are also 2 humans who want to use this place as a battlefield. Hell has been deserted for a long time, and now it is finally lively. On the other side, Doom and Mephitis could not laugh anymore. For the first time, Doom's face showed a furious expression. He looked at Li Ji with eyes that almost wanted to eat him. Mephitis was even more ferocious, because he knew that the damage caused by this kind of ghost thing was probably more harmful than the space bomb made by Doom, whose power was unknown. Especially Mephitis had a boss who often said, "I work for death." This was not a joke. "You two will die." The red demon Mephitis almost said this sentence through his teeth. The red energy exploded outside his body, and the pressure of the big demon made all the monsters tremble. Peter Parker felt that there was danger on all sides. If the spider sense was displayed in the form of a light, it should have flashed now. Except for Lucifer, who still seemed to be fine, everyone else was under severe energy pressure, as if they were carrying a 1,000-pound weight on their bodies. But at the moment when Mephitis' energy reached its peak, something strange happened on the horizon. The hell that was originally filled with red clouds suddenly appeared golden clouds outside the horizon. The golden clouds looked very abrupt and unnatural. Then came an auditory hallucination. At least Li Ji thought it was an auditory hallucination, because he actually heard the sound of Sanskrit chanting in his ears. But Li Ji finally denied the judgment of auditory hallucination, because he saw a person appear in the sky. Oh no, to be precise, it was a Buddha who appeared in the sky. His whole body was colorful and he stepped in the clouds of 8 treasures. Wherever he passed, Sanskrit chanting was heard, and his appearance was solemn. Chapter 286 Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. If there is a god in hell that can be related to Buddha, Li Ji can only guess that it is Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva after searching his brain. The great power that made a great wish in mythology, he will not become a Buddha until hell is empty. Because in Li Ji's memory, his memory of Journey to the West is clearer than that of the Marvel world. He always remembers the story of the real and fake Monkey King. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva should be the only one who saw through the fake Monkey King besides Tathagata Buddha. He just didn't want to cause trouble for himself, so he pretended that he didn't see through it. The appearance of golden auspicious clouds and lingering Sanskrit sound instantly weakened Mephitis' momentum. He immediately restrained his energy deterrence and even put on his human disguise again. Is he a little afraid of Ksitigarbha? Li Ji didn't know if his guess was right. Lucifer snorted disdainfully when he saw Mephitis' behavior, but Mephitis didn't seem to want to pay attention to him. Who is this? Another Lord of Hell. Harry, who didn't know much about Asian culture, couldn't help but ask quietly. If I'm not mistaken, it should be Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, the Bodhisattva in charge of the reincarnation of hell in the East Asian pantheon. Li Ji was not sure if what he said was right. It is indeed Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. He is the most special existence in hell. Lan confirmed Li Ji's statement. No one disagreed with Lan's statement that Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is the most special existence in hell. Because from the way Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva appeared, it can be seen that the golden clouds in the sky and the chanting of Sanskrit that makes people feel calm can never be associated with a terrifying hell. Among all the people present, Kamibu's feelings were the most special. His spirit of revenge came from the incarnation of the Eastern Ksitigarbha boy. He himself has a natural respect and closeness to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. When Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva got closer and closer, the confinement imposed on him by the hand and the Onmyaji was useless. The complete form of the Ghost Rider has been fully revealed, but Kamibu seemed to be unaware of it. He just knelt on the ground and greeted the arrival of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva in the Eastern posture of prostrating and kneeling. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva does not have much pressure on humans. Instead, they feel a spring breeze because of his arrival. This is hard to feel in hell. Instead, all the monsters summoned by the yin-yang master are trembling. This is not just the respect of a low-level demon to a high-level demon. It is a fear from the bottom of their hearts. It is indeed true that Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's magic power has a natural restraining effect on all monsters. His magic power is strong in itself, and it has a restraining effect on monsters, so it is hard to understand why Mephitis immediately restrained himself when he saw him coming. Mephitis is indeed a little afraid of Ksitigarbha. Of course Lucifer's situation is much better. But his face is also very ugly, because every time he meets Ksitigarbha, he always feels that he is seen through by him. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva came on the 8-treasure auspicious cloud. His 5-colored glass body is as tall as a mountain made of crystal stones. He stands tall and straight in his movements. But the closer Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva gets, the smaller his body seems to become. When he came to the gap of the crater, he had become the size of an ordinary person. However, the colorful gem light and 5-colored glass body behind him were too dazzling, making it difficult to look directly at his true self. I thought you would be in the city of the dead, at this time when Dormammu attacked hell. You were elected as the chairman of the temporary parliament. Lucifer still maintained his unremarkable tone. Perhaps such a tone could cover up his inner thoughts. Those thoughts hidden in the deepest part of his heart, never expected to be explored by others. If the 2 most important hell lords in hell are not in the city of the dead, how can I support the overall situation alone? Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's voice, if Li Ji guessed, had a sense of neutrality and peace. However, as a bodhisattva who has been in hell for a long time and dealt with various big demons, perhaps Ksitigarbha is the most secular and shrewd of all bodhisattvas. After all, there are many real demons here, and it would be a joke if you talk about Buddhism with them. I came here just to look for you too. At the same time, I seem to have discovered that there is something not very good here, a bit dangerous. Xitigarbha said to Lucifer and Mephitis. Is he really a bodhisattva? Why do I feel that he is not like one? You know. He is a bit too worldly. Liji looked at the conversation between Xitigarbha and Mephitis and couldn't help asking Lan. You have to understand that Xitigarbha Bodhisattva is in hell. Although his power is naturally restrained by various creatures of hell. But this also makes him the enemy of all the great demons of hell. After all, no great demon wants to have such a powerful existence around him. Lan explained lightly. When dealing with this group of demons, Bodhisattva needs to be more worldly. And when Master Guyi signed a contract with other dimensions, Xitigarbha Bodhisattva coordinated quite a lot of things. And when she finished speaking, all the mages, including Lan, made a salute to Xitigarbha Bodhisattva. Supreme Master Guyi, your disciples have met Xitigarbha Bodhisattva. It seems that Guyi and Xitigarbha Bodhisattva have some friendship? The Supreme Sorcerer also knows how to make allies, such as Odin and Xitigarbha. If he didn't have these powerful gods as his allies, it would be difficult for him to sign a treaty with many demons not to invade the earth. From this aspect, Ancient One is indeed the strongest of all the Supreme Sorcerers. Lucifer quickly told Xitigarbha the story that happened before, and his tone was still very teasing. Anyway, he looked at everything that happened in hell purely as an outsider. Xitigarbha listened to Lucifer's story with a smile. He smiled and shook his head, and said softly to Lan, who was saluting. Nonsense. The tone seemed to be a rebuke, but it was obvious that he was deliberately downplaying the matter. Nonsense. Mephitis understood what Xitigarbha wanted to do. This is not a simple nonsense, Xitigarbha. They are going to destroy hell. Do you understand what this means? But Xitigarbha did not react more because of Mephitis' anger, but just said it lightly. Mephitis, everything has its cause and effect. If you hadn't planned to trap the soul of this man's mother, how could all this happen today? No one would bring a bomb into hell, nor would they start a war just to make a deal with you. Of course, these wizards and their friends would not chase this man named Doom to hell. All they want is to prevent a war. What use is there to you about the soul of the gypsy woman? You need to imprison her for decades. According to the rules, her soul should be put into reincarnation. I work for death, you have no right to interfere in my affairs. Mephitis heard some unkindness in Xitigarbha's tone, although Xitigarbha's tone was still very gentle. But based on Mephitis's understanding of Xitigarbha over thousands of years, he knew what kind of personality this great man had. Really? But I didn't know that death gave you the right to resurrect people. Everything is balanced, and there should be more living people than dead people in this world. And the cause and effect you induced may cause a catastrophe of life on earth. And you are still saying that you work for death? Xitigarbha Bodhisattva still said this with a smile, but the content of the words frightened Mephisto. Lucifer on the side smiled. He always had a taste of watching the fun and not minding the big things. When Liji heard such a conversation, he also had a question in his mind. Wait, why does he know that there may be a catastrophe on Earth? It seems that I haven't said anything about the things on Earth yet. Sure enough, none of these big shots are easy to mess with. Chapter 287 Xitigarbha's Kingdom of God. You don't need to worry about this, Xitigarbha. Mephitis said somewhat uncomfortably. I naturally have my own reasons for handling things. It's not the turn of others to comment. You must understand that you are not my main god. Xitigarbha heard what Mephitis said, still smiling gently, as if he did not show any other emotions. But Mephitis, we are facing a lot of things now. You must know that the threat of Dormammu is imminent. So, let me get rid of these two little guys. We are discussing the issue of Dormammu. Mephitis still looked very angry. Doom did not play by the rules. He did not agree to deal with the devil like those humans Mephitis had contacted before. Instead, he proposed a condition and accompanied it with a threat. This approach obviously messed up Mephitis' original plan. In his imagination, the plot did not unfold like this. For this matter, it can only be said that Mephitis still underestimated Doom. Or as a great demon god, playing with humans in the palm of his hand, he despised humans a little too much? Liji's arrival was even more unexpected, coming too abruptly and inexplicably. If Doom's loss of control was just a mistake in the plan, then Liji and others who chased Doom to hell were completely beyond Mephitis' expectations. He never thought that a human would be so bold. And this human was even crazier than Doom. He didn't want to destroy hell. Instead, He wanted to turn hell into a place without souls. And this soulless state might even last for more than 10 years. If Death knew all this, Mephitis believed that Liji would die ugly. But at the same time, he would probably be thrown into the temple of death and suffer unimaginable torture. When a god is named after death, the meaning it represents is the avenue in the universe, or it is itself a law of the universe. No, Mephitis. I don't think there's any benefit in doing this. You know, everything is caused by you. Dizeng stopped in front of Mephitis without any fireworks. If you hadn't lied to that gypsy woman more than 10 years ago and made her sacrifice her soul in exchange for the peace and freedom of her country, nothing would have happened today. You deceived her, and her country didn't get everything it deserved. Instead, she lost her soul to you. That's why her son came to you today, willing to start a war and even vowed to destroy hell. Mephitis, there is a cause and an effect. All karma will find its source. Xitigarbha's words made Mephitis very uneasy, of course not because of the cause and effect theory and karma theory that Xitigarbha said, but because of something else. You have been watching me, Xitigarbha. Mephitis once again took off his human disguise and showed his demon form. And this time he was facing Xitigarbha Bodhisattva. Xitigarbha still had that smiling attitude, but the colorful gem light on his body was shining brightly. It was so bright that people couldn't open their eyes, and it also made Mephitis feel uncomfortable all over, as if staying in this light for a while longer was a torment. No, I don't need to monitor you, Mephitis, I just want to find out the cause and effect of this matter. Don't forget that I am also in charge of hell, and I also have Ting. As long as I want to know, there are very few things in this world that can be hidden from me. Of course, the reason I can know all this is largely because you never thought of keeping this matter secret at the beginning. Xitigarbha Bodhisattva's words calmed Mephitis down a lot, but Lucifer looked thoughtful. He looked at Xitigarbha with more vigilance. Mephitis seemed to calm down a little. Well, Ting. Yes, I forgot about that guy. But this is still my personal problem. As the Lord of Hell, I still have the right to deal with some things. Don't tell me your nonsense about the equality of all beings. You know, those are just used to deceive people. Gods and humans are essentially different. Xitigarbha did not make any more refutations to Mephitis' words, he still spoke in a calm manner. I think we should look at the problem dialectically, Mephitis. Maybe we can take advantage of this opportunity. We need to deal with Dormammu, but no Lord of Hell wants to help now. What Dizeng said was true. There is intrigue in hell. You can see the clues just from the relationship between Lucifer and Mephitis. Although there may be many strong people in the whole hell, most of them are disunited. It's a good thing that they don't hold each other back. And you want them to work together? This is too difficult. No one is willing to work, so you pushed me up to be the chairman of this temporary parliament. I know your purpose very well. Dizeng's words were a bit blunt and unacceptable. And now, don't we have a better choice? We don't need to consume anyone's energy. We won't be swallowed up by others because we enter the decline period. Now 2 friends from the Earth have sent us weapons. I don't think this is a good solution. Huh? After hearing what Dizeng said, Li Ji really had a deep understanding of the fact that Dizeng Bodhisattva was very secular. You mean using the weapons they made? I don't think these 2 weapons are powerful enough to deal with a great demon who controls the dark space. Mephitis said doubtfully. You know we can't kill Dormammu, we can only drive him away. If this is the premise, I think it should be enough. As long as these 2 weapons have the power claimed by their manufacturers. The image of Xitigarbha Bodhisattva in Li Ji's mind seemed to collapse a little. So I think we can propose a new deal. Mephitis. Put aside your little calculations for the time being. I am not interested in what you are planning, but if hell is gone, whether it is swallowed by Dormammu or blown up by them, such consequences are not what we want to see. Xitigarbha's proposal made Mephitis ponder for a moment. If you don't object, I think I can provide a safe place for negotiation. And I can act as a witness in the middle to ensure the fairness of the transaction. Xitigarbha said so. Fair trade is the most unfair thing for demons. Mephitis squeezed out this sentence from his teeth. But what Xitigarbha said before still made sense. Dormammu's invasion is also a big problem now. Xitigarbha didn't pay much attention to Mephitis' complaints, but put his hands together and began to recite scriptures. Sanskrit sounds were heard between heaven and earth. Countless golden raindrops began to drip from the golden clouds. A golden door suddenly appeared in front of Xitigarbha Bodhisattva and was slowly opening. Li Ji didn't know what Xitigarbha Bodhisattva was doing now. But it seemed that Lucifer and Lan knew what Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva was doing now. Especially Lucifer had some excitement and strong jealousy in his heart. Because he knew what Ksitigarbha was doing now. He was calling for his own kingdom of God. That's right, a private kingdom of God belonging to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. It does not overlap with the kingdom of the Pure Land in the west, but a completely independent kingdom of 7 treasures and glass. Lucifer knew too well what this meant. The kingdom of heaven is led by Jehovah, and there are 12 archangels, 3,000 angels and hundreds of thousands of the most devout believers. The creation of each kingdom of God requires great and magnificent power at the beginning. Maintaining a kingdom of God also requires the same huge power. So whether it is heaven, Asgard, Olympus, the Western Pure Land, or Teku, any kingdom of God is supported by countless believers. However, the 7 treasures glazed kingdom is a completely private and independent kingdom of God. It was founded by Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva alone. You must know that creating a kingdom of God has never been something that one person can do. If there is any shortcoming in Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's kingdom of God, it is small. Very, very small. So small that only one tree can be planted in it. Only under the shade of this 7 treasures glazed tree is the scope of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's kingdom of God. No wonder there are rumors that Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's ability is enough to rival his main god, the master of the Western Pure Land. Lucifer thought secretly in his heart. Then I think we can talk about some things with peace of mind. In the 7 treasures glazed realm, I can guarantee the safety of everyone. Ksitigarbha has summoned his kingdom of God. Of course, I think it's better for the 2 evil ghost riders over there to come as well. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva named a few people, and Li Ji happened to be among them. And now, it looks like Ksitigarbha wants everything turned in a more peaceful way under his auspices. Chapter 288. What is this request? The kingdom of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is indeed not big. Li Ji stepped over the gate with the 8 Buddhist treasures and auspicious clouds as decorations, and stepped into the kingdom of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva in one step. There's only one tree standing upright in the whole kingdom of God, which looks like crystal glass. Each of its leaves sparkles with a crystal clear luster. The scope of the whole kingdom of God is limited to the scope of this 7 treasure glass tree. The size of the tree determines the size of the boundary. Li Ji was a little curious about the gate he had just crossed. The gate and the tree both gave people a sense of simplicity and solemnity. It was as if these 2 treasures had spanned the epoch of eternity and were immortal. Perhaps this gate might be like the Rainbow Bridge of Asgard. Without the permission of the owner, guests cannot cross here and cannot reach the kingdom of God. Under the glass tree, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva sat on a cushion. In his kingdom of God, he concealed his 7-color treasure light and 5-color glass body. Now Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva looks like an ordinary monk with a mortal body. It's just that this monk looks a bit majestic, and in the temple, Yuha's skin looks too radiant. Li Ji felt that it was a bit rude to stare at a bodhisattva like this. So he quickly followed the Chinese tradition and performed a folded palm ceremony to the bodhisattva. Since there is no reverence in your heart, why do you have to perform this useless ceremony? I listen to people's hearts, so you don't need to do anything meaningless to me. The first sentence of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva made Li Ji a little embarrassed. It's strange that Li Ji has never had any reverence for any gods, Buddhas, demons, or other legendary powers in his heart. He used to think that this was because he didn't believe in the existence of these things at all. But now when these legendary characters appear alive in front of him, he still can't raise any reverence for the gods. Maybe for this reason, Li Ji asked Thor, who came to the world for the first time, to clean the toilet, including the women's toilet. Li Ji was embarrassed and didn't know how to answer, but fortunately, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva didn't use a tone of questioning Li Ji. Buddha said that all beings are equal. If you don't want to be reverent, then don't be reverent. Bodhisattva, where are the others? They came in before me, why can't I see them? Didn't you say you wanted to be a middleman? Li Ji had to change the awkward topic and talk about something else. But he still followed the most basic etiquette and politeness. Because he couldn't figure out whether Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva was serious or just being polite to him. If it was like the red envelopes that Chinese people give during the Chinese New Year, where the refusal was just a polite gesture and you really didn't give it, it would be very embarrassing. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva looked at Li Ji, smiled and shook his head. Have you heard of one flower, one world, one leaf, one Bodhi? Yes, I have. Li Ji thought for a while before he understood what Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva meant. Are you saying this is an independent world? It doesn't interfere with others. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva nodded. It's okay, not very stupid. I don't think it's a good idea to put you all together. Especially when Lucifer and Mephrodis are present. None of the great demons in hell are easy to deal with. Sometimes they are angry or mocking. They are just performances of demons to stir people's hearts. Humans are too easily confused by them. Then you are here to chat with me, don't you need to entertain them first? Liji didn't know why he felt very stressed when he was alone with Ksitigarbha. Since you know that one flower is one world, one leaf is one Bodhi. Naturally, you should also understand what 3,000 incarnations mean. Ksitigarbha is still the kind of person who smiles forever. To be honest, now that Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva does not have the 7-color treasure light, his facial features can be seen very clearly. Bodhisattva looks very majestic, and should have a serious look. So it always feels weird to smile all the time. Maybe Maitreya Buddha is more suitable for this kind of smiling expression forever? Liji thought about it in his heart. Bodhisattva, then you are going to separate, talk to each person alone, and then reconcile in the end. Liji probably guessed what Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva was thinking. Yes, there is a theory called prisoner's dilemma in human psychology. Have you heard of it? I think that solving the focus of your current problem with the prisoner's dilemma model is the simplest and most effective means of reconciliation. Liji felt that every time Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva had just erected an image of a bodhisattva in his heart, it would be completely shattered by his next very secular language. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, you are indeed the most secular bodhisattva. Even a god needs to constantly learn various knowledge to supplement and improve himself. Any highly intelligent species will not be looked down upon by gods, except for some arrogant ones. Ksitigarbha seemed to see through what Liji was thinking, so he said it casually. So, in my spare time when managing hell, I will read books written by various intelligent races, generally mainly philosophy and art. After all, knowledge can make people progress. Those who claim to be omniscient and omnipotent are either dead or on the fast track to death, especially gods. Liji felt that Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva was more like a scholar than a god at this moment. Okay, I think we should start talking about some business. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva seemed to no longer want to attack Liji's worldview, and started to get down to business. Okay, Bodhisattva. Actually, my request. Liji was interrupted by Ksitigarbha before he finished speaking. I understand your request. At the same time, the man named Tony Stark has already told me. So I don't want to talk about these. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva shook his head. Huh? Liji was a little confused. If not about this, then what was Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva going to talk to him about? Lan told me some interesting things. Oh. Please don't blame her. She is the disciple of Ancient One, and I am the friend of Ancient One. Ethically speaking, she is my junior. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva said something without a beginning or an end. Because if I want to know, I can always know what I want to know by using Ting. Although it can only find out what has already happened. This was the second time Liji heard the name Ting. He didn't know if this Ting was the same thing as the mythical beast in the myth that could hear all kinds of human life. So what do you want to talk about, Bodhisattva? Liji could only follow Ksitigarbha's words now. A very interesting thing. I would have discovered it even if Lan didn't tell me. You have the aura of a Buddhist practitioner, and it's very pure and rich. This is very, very interesting. You know, there haven't been any Buddhist practitioners in this universe for thousands of years. Dazing stood up from the cushion and walked around Liji twice. Then he said something that scared Liji a little. Attack me once, use all your strength. Perform the Buddha's hand seal that Lan once saw you use. Huh? Liji felt a little confused. Chapter 289 Return to the Human World. Outside the kingdom of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. What do you think they are talking about inside? Peter Parker sat on the ground with some boredom, staring at the Golden Gate not far away and said to Harry. Who knows? If you want to know, why don't you go in and listen yourself? Harry glanced at Peter and waved his hand. I tried, but I couldn't cross that gate. Peter Parker said helplessly. He has always been a very curious person. It's really amazing. It seems that there is a magical barrier blocking the direction of my progress. It feels more magical than the space spells of the wizards. A special energy, even the detection equipment can't read these data. It seems that it doesn't exist at all. This is a bit unscientific. Hank was not on the invitation list of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, and he was also placed in the hell wasteland outside the kingdom of God. Beast Tank was holding his own instrument and trying to read the energy fluctuations emitted by Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, trying to analyze the scientific laws behind these energies. Well, an excellent scientist is sometimes a serious paranoid. You probably can't detect any energy, Doctor. You have to understand that when gods are as powerful as Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, it is difficult to explain them with science. A Kamartaji wizard said to Hank from a distance. There must be a law that can explain it, but I haven't found the right method. Or the current theoretical research of human beings is not deep enough. Maybe we lack some new physical rules. Hank does seem to be a little paranoid about science. Well, Doctor, whether you can find new physical rules or not, at least now we don't have to fight those guys to death, which is a good thing. Peter Parker pointed to the people originally brought by Kingpin and Doom. Doom was also taken into the kingdom of God by Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, leaving his group of brothers outside to be on guard. But now the battle has stopped. Now it is just a state of confrontation between the Metsja army and them, but the atmosphere has eased a lot. Kingpin stood on the side of his yin-yang master with a bad face. He put his thumb in his mouth and bit it with his teeth, and some blood had been bitten. But he didn't seem to feel any pain. The failure of the operation in hell this time was too unexpected. If it weren't for the arrival of Nightwalker and his group, Jin Bing thought his plan would not have failed so quickly. And now it has even led to the existence of another big boss in hell. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is also a legend in the East. As the current leader of the Hand and the Society, he knows more or less some folk myths and legends about Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. And his master, the fallen angel Lucifer and the Lord of Hell Mephitis, seem to be in awe of him. Neither of them objected to Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's invitation to them to the Seven Treasures Glazed Realm. Jin Bing's heart was very, very unhappy. But he couldn't express anything now. Because Lucifer directly gave an order, asking all the Onmyogean monsters to stand still. No movement was allowed before he came out. As a Lord of Hell, what he said was like the law of nature for these monsters, and they must obey it. After the death of the beast, the Hand and the Society has completely changed to believe in Lucifer. The promoter of this is none other than Kingpin. It was because of Lucifer's power that Kingpin was able to unify this world-class assassin organization in a very short time. No matter how dissatisfied Kingpin was, he could not make any unusual moves now. Because now these people are listening to Lucifer, not him. Logan found Frank again and asked him for a cigar. You look like a veteran. Frank had several cigars in his arms. After all, there is always room for a few cigars in the space of the Mitcha. Really? Someone did say I was a veteran, but I don't remember anything. Wolverine took the cigar handed over by Frank and thanked him. And shouted to Cyclops from a distance. Scott. Light it up. Instinctively, Scott didn't want to pay any attention to Logan. After all, no man would have any good feelings for a guy who wanted to pick up his girlfriend as soon as they met. However, in Scott's character, generosity, this personality occupies a lot of places. So although he was very unhappy with Logan, he didn't want to cause any unhappiness with him because of such a small matter. So he used his laser to light cigars for the two from a distance. Thank you. Do you want one too? Frank thanks Scott from a distance. No, no. I'm not interested in cigarettes and alcohol. Scott waved his hand. Rigorousness and self-discipline were another part of his character. He is a boring person. Conservative and rigid, and very boring. Logan seemed to have a vicious mouth to comment on Scott, but he continued. But he is also a qualified teammate. The professor wants to train him to be the new leader of mutants as his successor. Although I think Scott still has many shortcomings, at least there is one thing I can trust him with my back. You kill people in a very violent way, and Scott is much more elegant. You are not the same kind of people. Frank's way of looking at people is very special. He distinguishes through killing. Is it painful to lose your memory? Yes, it's very painful. Except for your own name, you can't remember anything else. I used to search hard for my memories, including leaving my footprints in the East. Logan took a puff of the cigar and said a little lonely. Throughout his life, violent killing and endless loneliness have become the main themes of his life. So did you find anything in the East? Frank asked, holding a cigar in his mouth. Someone once said that I came to Japan during World War II, but I don't remember. Many years ago, a man who claimed that I had saved his life in World War II found me. He said he wanted to see me before he died. And he had a very old photo in his hand, And it was indeed me in it. Logan took another puff of his cigar. The smoke from the two old men's cigars made the scene a little psychedelic. It sounds good, a touching story of gratitude. Frank commented briefly. But Logan laughed out loud. His laughter was a little hoarse and low. He patted Frank on the shoulder and said nothing. But from Logan's expression, Frank knew that things were not that simple. After the things here are over, I think I will stay in the East for a while, Doctor. Logan walked towards Hank with a cigar in his mouth and said to him, "Do you need help?" Hank's ears are very good, and he heard the conversation between Logan and Frank just now. The two spoke at a normal volume, and they had no intention of hiding anything from others. "No, thank you. I'll find you if I need anything." Logan shook his head. Peter Parker and Harry didn't care much about the love and hatred of those old men. Now Peter was more concerned about his stomach. Damn, these compressed biscuits are really hard. Peter was hungry, and the only food to fill his stomach was compressed biscuits. This dry and hard thing was not a delicious delicacy. Wait for Nightcrawler to come out, I need him to cook a whole table of dishes for me. Peter Parker was mumbling, and Harry advised him. Then you should at least wait. Before Harry finished his words, Luigi had already walked out of the gate of Xitigarbha Bodhisattva's kingdom of God. Although his face was hidden by a hood, his expression could be seen through the mist under the hood. It was as if he smelled some bad gas. How did the talk go? Peter threw down the compressed biscuits in his hand and walked up to ask. We've finished the talk, even though I'm a little confused. But I think we should be able to return to the human world. I don't want to stay in this monotonous and boring hell wasteland for even a moment. Luigi said the news that Peter Parker wanted to hear most with some relief. Chapter 290, The Self-Assertive Person. Location, Toyo, Osaka, the Castle of the 2K. Time, April 20th, 11 a.m. The Castle of the 2K, as well as most of the bases in the Kansai region, were taken out by the Innocence Society during this period. Of course, as a global assassin organization, the bases of the 2K are certainly not limited to the Toyo region. Just like they have a branch in New York, the 2K actually has its own bases in Europe. However, the Toyo region has always been run by them as their base camp. But the headquarters in the Toyo region has indeed suffered a heavy blow this time. Most of the backbone forces were taken away by Jinbing. This allowed the Innocence Society organized by the stick-thin disciple, Panchi, to capture the Toyo region's bases one by one. Especially those peripheral underground organizations that have been providing economic blood transfusions for the 2K. In a short period of time, the entire Kansai region of Toyo seemed to have changed. The entire underground order was completely broken and reorganized. But this is still a good thing, because the Innocence Society is a relatively gentle society. Although it is difficult to define whether the Pure Innocence Society is a mafia organization, at least the disciples trained by Gun Shao are relatively gentle. Compared with the Hand and Peace Society, which completely relied on killing and tough means to integrate those peripheral organizations, the Pure Innocence Society seems to be much more gentle. Of course, this is also a comparison. Since Li Ji and others went to hell, Panchi has been stationed in this castle for a long time. At the same time, there are 4 Kamarataki mages who have been guarding the entrance to hell. Thank you for your hard work. As usual, Panchi personally brought lunch to the place where the mages were stationed. Panchi pushed open the door of the basement as usual and greeted him. But today, no mage had time to pay attention to him. Because through the special magic stone, Lan has sent a signal to them. Ask them to build a space gate on the human side. After all, they are not the Ancient One and do not have the ability to directly cross 2 dimensions. There must be a fulcrum between the 2 different dimensions, so that a bridge can be built to communicate between the 2 worlds. Panchi, let someone guard this place. They are coming back. In the gap between setting up the fulcrum of the Oriental side, a mage still spoke to Panchi. At the same time, in Kyoto, Oriental, a group of executives of Osborne Group, Oriental, were gathering in a high-end restaurant in this ancient capital with a history of thousands of years. Kyoto is one of the oldest cities in the Orient, and it is also an important cultural center of the Orient. According to the structure of Chang'an City 1,000 years ago, Kyoto also set up a very similar market structure and a straight road similar to Suzaku Street. Although it has gone through thousands of years of vicissitudes, in some inadvertent corners, you can still find the charm of this city 1,000 years ago. The most famous attraction in Kyoto should be Kinkokuji Temple, although the current Kinkokuji Temple is still very different from the ancient Kinkokuji Temple. Because in the protection of cultural relics in the Orient, the principle of repairing the old as new is used more widely. Therefore, Kinkakuji Temple and most of the ancient buildings and castles in the Orient have been renovated with modern technology and materials. Many times, the so-called ancient monuments and antiquities seen in some scenic spots look beautiful and even glittering. The onlookers who are confused admire that the 1,000-year-old monuments are so well preserved. But they may not know that what they see may have been built and renovated in the last 2 or 3 decades. Most of the materials used in it are from modern materials. This is very different from China, which is separated by a river. The rule of repairing the old as new is seriously excluded in the protection of ancient cultural relics in China. Repairing the old as new is the protection principle of Chinese cultural relics. If there are no original fragments of damaged cultural relics, they are not allowed to be repaired. If they need to be repaired, only the most original embryonic color can be maintained. Chasing color in coloring to imitate the old to the point of being close to the real thing is considered creative restoration in China. There are no special requirements for cultural relic restorers to do so. And things like repainting and coloring should be avoided if possible. It is best not to do anything suspected of creative restoration on cultural relics. To repair Song Dynasty paintings, use Song Dynasty paper. There are many rules like this. This also makes many ancient monuments and cultural relics in China look dirty and old. There is no trace of restoration at all. The cultures of the two countries share the same origin, but they have very different differences in many areas. It is also because of this difference that the values of the people of the two countries are seemingly right but wrong. And this difference can be seen from the group of executives who gathered in the restaurant. This is a restaurant called Sakura, which is a house with a traditional Japanese-style courtyard. Sitting on the eaves under the house, you can see the appearance of Kinkakuji Temple from afar. If the weather is fine, the reflection of the sun can make the restored Kinkakuji Temple shine with a golden light. This is one of the leading high-end restaurant pavilions in Kyoto, and it only receives a few guests every month. Today, this restaurant pavilion was booked by executives from Osborne Group, Toyo. In the room with the best view in the courtyard this season, the room that can overlook Kinkakuji Temple, 4 men are eating kaiseki cuisine in the traditional Japanese kneeling way, while talking in a low voice. Have you heard? Kinoshita-kun is going to be fired. The middle-aged man who started to talk about work gossip was about 50 years old and a little bald. Perhaps it was the long-term overtime work in his youth that caused his endocrine disorder, making his skin look rough and his pores oily and large. Even now that he is in a high position, he seems to have not adjusted. I heard that it was because a plate of sushi was delivered to Mr. Harry in the evening, and it didn't suit Mr. Harry's appetite. He has worked at the Osaka hotel for 20 years. The person who took over the topic was another man. He looked a little sharp and looked like a common mean boss in the workplace. Mr. Harry seems to be dissatisfied with everything after coming to Toyo. We have worked so hard, and all employees are working diligently and working overtime day and night. I don't understand what he is dissatisfied with. At the same time, a man who looked kind and occasionally seen in the workplace, a bit like a good guy, joined in the complaint. Maybe we haven't worked hard enough. Sitting at the top was a man with gray hair, but he was energetic and looked very stylish. Chairman Yasuda, we can't go on like this. Although Mr. Harry said he was traveling around the East these days and temporarily put aside the supervision of the East branch. But I heard that Mr. Harry was very dissatisfied with the results of our last meeting. I even heard that someone around him encouraged him to make a big change in our East branch. The short man said to the chairman at the top. Yes, Chairman. We can't just sit there and wait for death. The saying that a new emperor appoints new ministers is not just a saying. Mr. Norman passed away, and Mr. Harry took over. As the headquarters in Asia, he will definitely intervene and arrange for someone he trusts to manage the company. We must do something to make him understand the necessity of our existence. The middle-aged bald man with endocrine disorder said so. Otherwise, we may be like Kinoshita-kun, and be kicked out because of a little mistake. The man who looked like a good old man kept nodding in agreement. Chairman Yasuda picked up a bite of spring vegetables prepared in accordance with the season, with chopsticks, and he carefully tasted the sweet and bitter taste of the vegetables. He didn't speak until he had chewed the food thoroughly and swallowed it. Kinoshita-kun has not been fired yet, those are just rumors. And do you want to cause trouble? This is not a warring states period, there is no rule of the lower class overthrowing the upper class. It's always right to prepare for a rainy day, Chairman Yasuda. The sharp man continued to incite. If you want Mr. Harry to continue to hand over the power of the East to you, Chairman Yasuda, then you need to let him know that you are indispensable. I have served this company for 40 years. Chairman Yasuda said slowly. But Americans, especially young people in the United States, don't care about this. Look at Zuckerberg, founder and CEO of Facebook, to understand the concept of young American entrepreneurs now. The bald man's words hit Chairman Yasuda's soft spot. The sharp man knew that Chairman Yasuda was a little shaken, so he hurriedly said, "We still have chips that can make us very valuable." "What chips?" Chairman Yasuda took a sip of sake and asked in a low voice. "Yasuda Group." No, Mr. Harry refused to meet with Yasuda Group before he left. Chairman Yasuda shook his head. "It's different, Chairman Yasuda, because Mr. Harry doesn't understand what Yasuda Mariko has in her hands. If he knew, he wouldn't refuse." The sarcastic man whispered softly in Chairman Yasuda's ear, and he seemed to say something very quickly. Chairman Yasuda's face was a little uncertain. "Are you sure?" "Chairman, the most important development direction of Osborne Group now is the field of limb regeneration, and other medical fields that have expanded from this field. Mr. Harry will definitely be tempted. And the reason why Mr. Harry refused Yasuda Group is because this group has a certain underworld background. But when it comes to doing business, Miss Mariko has always been very trustworthy, and didn't you help her back then, Chairman?" Ahem. Chairman Yasuda coughed twice, interrupting the sarcastic man's words. The man soon realized that he had said something wrong, so he turned back. "In short, as long as you take the lead in this matter and arrange a meeting for Miss Mariko, you will definitely be able to convince Mr. Harry. And the mediation and lubrication between the two groups in the future will be inseparable from you, Chairman Yasuda." Yasuda thought for a long time, and finally nodded. "Then let's do it. Wait until Mr. Harry comes back. I will find a way to arrange a meeting for him." "Wise decision, Chairman Yasuda. Please let me pour you a glass of wine." The sarcastic man immediately flattered him. "Well, maybe they really don't understand how the hotel manager who sent cold sushi to Harry in the middle of the night was hated by Harry and even wanted to fire him. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 291, returning to their respective lives. So I think it's better to let the mages take over the management of this castle. After all, there is an entrance to hell here. I think it's better to let special people handle special things. Li Ji and others have returned to the east, and have been resting in the castle of the Hand and the Society for a day. As Panshi's junior, Daredevil Matt suggested to his senior brother, "Whether it is the Hands and the Pure Society, I don't think we are really capable of protecting this place. Master Lan told me that he hopes to turn this place into a foothold for mages in the east, and at the same time be able to monitor the dynamics of hell." Panshi agreed with this proposal. Although Panshi looks very wild, a bit like the image of a barbarian in an action game. But his mind is very delicate. He knows that this castle is a hot potato. Whether to give up this castle or take over this castle, it is a burden for the Pure Society. You know, there is a direct train to hell under this castle. God knows if a monster will pop up one day. And the Pure Society does not have the habit of worshipping the evil god of hell. They don't need to guard the entrance to this hell like the Hand and the Society. So after the discussion between the two brothers, it was decided to hand over the castle to the mages for management. Anyway, the entire castle has basically not suffered any damage in recent days. Panshi has organized people to repair the damaged parts of the castle due to the previous battle. Only the last few finishing touches have not been completed. He decided to hand over the entire castle after everything is done. At least handing it over to the mages of Kamataki is much better than leaving it to the Hand and the Society, or managing it by himself. And most importantly, he can even establish some friendship with the mages because of this incident. In the castle tower, in the lounge of Li Ji and others, Harry and Peter were chatting in Li Ji's room. So, Ksitagarbha Bodhisattva mediated everything. Peter was talking while eating a chocolate bar, and this action caused a lot of crumbs of his chocolate bar to fall on the tatami floor. "Can you not talk while eating? It makes the room dirty," Harry said with some disgust. "Hey. During those days in hell, I only ate compressed biscuits every day. Every time I burped, There was a disgusting smell. I felt like I was about to become a compressed biscuit. It was the kind of thing that was a mixture of squashed soybean flour, sugar and animal fat. It was so disgusting. Peter complained, but he quickly finished the remaining chocolate bar in his hand. Yes, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva mediated. Liji changed the topic between the two. He did it to each person individually. I never knew that gods would read philosophy books and know about prisoners' dilemmas. So what was the result? Peter asked with some curiosity. Because everyone talked individually, and then Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva transferred the commission. And afterward we signed a confidentiality agreement with him and could not reveal the information we said, so we are afraid that we will never know the whole story. But at least the ending is good. Liji shrugged. When Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva passed on the message to each of you, he must have modified the opinions he conveyed. Otherwise, it would not be so easy to convince guys like Doom and Mephitis. Harry pulled his chin and analyzed. I agree with this conjecture. Peter also agreed with Harry's statement. It seems that as a bodhisattva, Ksitigarbha cannot lie. Liji thought of the precepts of the Buddha, but he also thought of another person, that is, Loki holding the sword of truth. He can't lie either, but he can speak selectively, and express different meanings of the same paragraph through the arrangement of different phrases and the change of tone and context. However, maybe this bodhisattva has made some modifications. His level of worldliness is far beyond my imagination. The ghost rider on Kingpin's side, the man named Kamibu, was left behind by Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. I heard that he has a connection with Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. It seems that his power comes from a boy under Ksitigarbha. I don't know if it's an illusion, but when I found Kamibu, I felt that Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva was a little angry. If the Heavenly Father extracted the consciousness of a Ksitigarbha boy without the consent of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva to create the spirit of vengeance, I think the relationship between the two of them should be very stiff now. Liji recounted the result of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's mediation. On our side, Johnny Blaze, who led us to hell, was also left behind. It seems that there is a problem with his spirit of vengeance. However, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva did not reveal the specific problem. And Johnny himself agreed. Liji said thoughtfully. And Doom has agreed to the peace talks. Under the mediation of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, Doom agreed to work with Tony to maintain the new energy plan. At the same time, he will stop the armed conflict in Eastern Europe. As long as Russia does not take action, he will restrain the member states of the new Eastern European organization. Liji said this with a sigh of relief. At least the stage goal has been achieved. It depends on whether Russia is willing to bleed. Harry patted his left arm and said, Russia is not the Soviet Union after all. The war offensive some time ago has already strained their treasury. If they continue with this battle plan, even with the secret support of the other 5 permanent members, it is unlikely that Russia will continue to expand the exchange of fire. Especially after discovering that Latveria is not a rabbit, but an Arctic wolf that can bite people to death. I guess Russia will only cry poor with the other 5 permanent members and ask for more benefits. But it will not expand the bloody conflict. After all, the helium-3 has not been shipped back yet. Yes, there are no fools in this world. Liji also agreed with Harry's point of view. Peter Parker opened the packaging of another chocolate bar on the side and continued to be a silent chocolate bar eater. So the next task of persuading the 5 permanent members of the United Nations will be handed over to Tony Stark. After all, he created this big mess, and this complex political problem still needs to be left to him to solve. Liji nodded and said, at least now he has enough time. Before the helium-3 is shipped to the Earth, it is a period in which he can move. By the way, Doom doesn't seem to be back. Harry remembered this when Doom was mentioned. Yes, he was taken to the City of the Dead. Don't forget that he still has a grudge with Mephitis. So only one of his confidants came back, carrying his seal and token to convey his message to Latveria. It is estimated that Doom will come back later. Liji answered, and at the same time he looked at Peter Parker eating a chocolate bar and felt a little hungry. Any more chocolate? Liji silently asked Peter for a snack. As for Kingpin, he was left behind by Lucifer, as if Lucifer had something for him to complete. Although the mission about Kingpin was completed, Liji still kept a watchful eye on his heart. This man looks really troublesome. I originally thought he was just a gangster. But he was related to the Lord of Hell. And now he has taken over the feud. When Kingpin returns to Earth in the future, he must find a way to deal with him. When everyone has recovered to a better state in the castle, Most people also need to return to their respective jobs on Earth. I will report this experience to Master Ancient One. A lot of things happened in hell. I don't know if Master Ancient One knows about this. And a powerful demon god Nyonatha has fallen. I always have a bad feeling. Lam said to Li Ji before she left. Most people have to take the Master's space gate to go back, which is more convenient. Don't forget, Captain will look for you after you return to New York. Now SHIELD is in a mess. Iron Fist reminded Li Ji before leaving. The X-Men also left, except Wolverine of course. He didn't go back to the United States, but he left here as soon as he came back. I heard that he was going to Tokyo and Nagoya. As for Li Ji and others, they naturally couldn't leave. Because Harry's work was not completed yet. The department of Osborn Group in Japan was a mess. The procrastination of the clique and the big companies was too serious. These things still need to be solved by Harry. And Li Ji, as his personal consultant, has a considerable salary every month. Chapter 292 Kyoto. In Osaka City Hotel, it was still Harry's presidential suite. Li Ji lay on the big bed in his room and adjusted the air conditioner to comfortable temperature. At the same time, he turned on the Bluetooth speaker system in the room and played the music of Queen on his mobile phone. He was sorting his things while listening to the music. The trip to hell was over, and Jin Bing's mission was completed. And he also got a B-level reward randomly given by the system. Millennium Building Block Pendant, B-level evaluation item. It can build a powerful mental maze for the wearer. Anyone who invades the wearer's mind in a spiritual way will be trapped in this maze. Li Ji played with a small pendant in his hand. This small pendant is in the shape of a small pyramid and the color is also golden. However, the material cannot be felt. I don't know whether it is metal or some other material. The introduction given by the system seems that this thing is very powerful and is a kind of precision defense item. But judging from the shape and function of the given item, this thing looks like the 1000-year building block in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's just that it's not as exaggerated as the big building block pendant that Yuji Muto brought. Another difference is that there is no Egyptian pharaoh living in the building blocks. Li Ji muttered to himself, playing with the pendant for a while, and finally decided to wear it for himself. There are many masters who play with people's hearts and minds in the Marvel world. And not everyone who is proficient in mind control is as friendly as Professor X. Charles Xavier is a man of principle and bottom line, but this does not ensure that others can do the same. Among the people Li Ji knows, there is also Jean Grey, whose danger level is uncertain and may explode at any time because of the Phoenix Force. If I remember correctly, General Stryker, who has a great hatred for mutants, his son is also a mutant with mental abnormalities, and he seems to have been trained into a weapon by him in the end. I don't know if the unlucky child will still have this ending in this universe. And there is another thing in Li Ji's battle belt, a gift from Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. That day, Li Ji followed the instructions of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva and used all his strength to attack Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva with a great Sun Tathagata seal. Li Ji dared to swear that it was the first time he had pushed this skill to the limit since he learned it. The handprint emitting white Buddha light covered the sky and the sun, which was quite like the five-finger mountain suppressing Monkey King. However, this attack, which seemed very powerful to Li Ji, was gently broken by Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva with just one finger. It seemed that the previous attack was just like a mirage, and everything was unreal like a dream. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva smiled and nodded at Li Ji, and then smiled and shook his head. Li Ji was completely confused about what this Bodhisattva was doing. But before Li Ji left, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva gave him a small Buddha statue. It was a very small doll, only about 13 centimeters in height, and the sculpture was Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva. He didn't tell Li Ji what the Buddha statue was used for. Hey. Please, Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, you are so secular, so please be secular. Don't learn from other bodhisattvas and play Buddhist riddles with Buddha. Li Ji carefully observed the small Buddha statue in his hand, but still didn't find anything special about it. The material used for the carving is the most common black stone in hell. The carving skills are not very refined, but not rough either. To make an inappropriate analogy, it is like a good quality but not top-notch Buddha statue artwork bought at a craft store for more than 1,000 yuan. The only special thing is that there are many small words carved on the back of the Buddha statue with micro-carving technology. If you look closely, you can find that it is the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's original vow sutra. Li Ji decided to buy a book of Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's original vow sutra when he has time to compare it. See if there's anything special. While Li Ji was thinking about these things, the sound of knocking on the door interrupted his thoughts. We are ready, Jason is leaving. It was Peter who knocked on the door. After returning to Osaka, Harry did not start working immediately. According to him, he had just returned from hell and was about to start working intensively, which was very stressful. Although Harry used the excuse of relaxing in Japan during the few days he was away, he had never really traveled to relax. So this time he was willful and planned to take a day off and walk around Osaka. As the chairman of this large group and the largest shareholder, naturally, Mr. Harry has the final say, and no one can raise any objections. Instead, Chairman Yasuda of the Oriental branch enthusiastically recommended a travel guide to the Kyoto area to Harry, and even helped to book a very high-end restaurant. This is a very private trip, and there are no bodyguards. After all, with the skills of Harry, Li Ji, and Peter, it doesn't matter whether there are bodyguards or not. If something really happens, we don't know who will protect whom. It is actually very fast to take the Shinkansen from Osaka to Kyoto, and it only takes 15 minutes to arrive. It is not an exaggeration to call Kyoto the back garden of Osaka. I think Kyoto is much better than Osaka. It is more like the East. Osaka is a bit like a messy city, and Kyoto has a more traditional Oriental flavor. Walking in the garden near Kinkakuji, Harry expressed his opinion. In fact, big cities now look the same. If you go to the business district of Tokyo, you will feel that it is similar to Manhattan. Li Ji also said so. The faces of cities are indeed too similar now. Oh, okay. Actually, I'm more concerned about what we're going to eat for lunch. Jason, I've been looking forward to you coming back to cook me a big meal. I'm not used to Japanese food. Well, fried food is excluded, that's called tempura. Peter Parker was still obsessed with food. Japanese cuisine, apart from raw and cold food, is mostly light in taste. In a way, this seasoning is correct. But this seasoning is destined not to please Harry and Peter. As American youths who grew up eating cheeseburgers and bacon pizza, they can use up 5 packets of ketchup when eating French fries, which is definitely a heavy taste. However, Li Ji can still accept Japanese cuisine with light seasoning, so he said. At least we should respect their food culture? At least finish the Keiseki cuisine that has been scheduled for lunch. I heard that this is a Michelin restaurant. Okay. Peter could only sigh and said with a helpless expression. Actually, I think the McDonald's we just passed by is not bad. The restaurant that Chairman Yasuda helped to book is not far from Kinkakuji. It is a restaurant called Sakura. This restaurant is what Chairman Yasuda and his party had a gathering. Pushing open the traditional Japanese sliding door, the main theme of the restaurant is tatami and traditional Japanese paper. The room where Li Ji and others ate has been prepared. The portion of each dish in Keiseki cuisine is not large, but there are many types of dishes. And it is more particular about eating. Generally speaking, it is ranked by the taste of light and heavy. So in the dining area, there is also a female general who is responsible for serving dishes and tea. The Japanese call the female business owners in the restaurant this way. This female general has a kind of gentle beauty of a traditional Japanese woman. Wearing a traditional Japanese kimono, her long hair is tied into a bun at the back of her head so that it will not look messy. Her appearance has the unique softness of East Asian women, especially between her eyebrows and eyes. There is a gentle taste. It is difficult to guess the age of this woman. She has the beauty of a woman in her 20s, but also the charm of a woman in her 30s. If you want to describe this woman, the most appropriate word is probably Yamato Natashiko. Although it was the first time they met, Li Ji always felt strange, as if he had seen this woman somewhere before. Chapter 293 Chatting with Mariko. Under the arrangement of the store, lunch started quickly. Because Li Ji and the other two could not kneel, they sat cross-legged in this tatami room, sitting next to a low table. Traditional Japanese cuisine still maintains the system of separate meals. There are many types of dishes in Keiseki cuisine, so the table of the 3 people is full of many bowls and plates. As a high-end restaurant with Michelin stars, this restaurant has also put a lot of effort into the utensils for serving dishes. For example, the Aobian Shianmu tea bowl was used to serve tea to Li Ji and the other two. This is a kind of porcelain formed by the kill change of glaze during the firing process, because the result of the kill change process is uncontrollable. Therefore, whether in terms of appearance or quality, there are very few works that can reach the level of use. And there are even fewer that can be displayed as works of art. This craft originated in Zhejiang province in the southern Song dynasty, but due to the yield rate and other various problems, it was soon lost. It was not until recent years that kilns began to fire such porcelain again. And because the East likes this kind of kiln-changed porcelain, research also started earlier than China. Therefore, the craftsmanship of this kind of kiln-changed porcelain is better studied in the East. But even though it has recently resumed firing, the price of first-class kiln-changed porcelain is still high. The kiln-changed porcelain used in this restaurant is obviously of first-class quality. And the plates used to hold the dishes are obviously the work of the chef. Unlike the gorgeous porcelain such as the Yaobi and Cheyenne-moku tea bowl, the chef used a large number of pure color porcelain with green glaze and white glaze. These porcelains are only decorated with some painted patterns at the mouth. Most of these patterns reflect the season. Now it is spring, so these patterns are also spring patterns. Simple porcelain gives people a very quiet and elegant feeling. After the female general respectfully served the three people, she bowed and retreated to the corner of the room. She would come to serve tea or clean up the dishes when she was called. Maybe Chairman Yasuda already knew that Harry preferred heavier flavors and did not like raw and cold dishes. So this restaurant made some special preparations for lunch. Although the dishes still look fresh and elegant like traditional Japanese cuisine, they are very rich in flavor after eating. This is also true for the seafood soup that seems to have a light taste. Although there is no oil on the surface and the soup is as clear as white tea, the taste in the throat makes people feel rich and fresh. Well, this is the best Oriental food I have eaten in the past few days in Japan. Peter Parker nodded with satisfaction after tasting a few side dishes. He smiled happily. After all, Michelin stars are still useful. Liji also nodded approvingly. Dishes are things that are eaten by people in the end. If the guests don't like it, then no matter how much the chef insists, it is actually meaningless. Adjusting different tastes according to different guests is a long-term business approach. Especially for this kind of high-end restaurant that can only receive a few guests a month. I'm curious about why the Japanese call this kind of dish keiseki cuisine. What's the point? How is it different from ordinary banquets? Harry took a bite of the wolf-tooth eel on the table. Although it is called eel, it is actually a kind of sea eel. The chef used the sauce roasting method to process the wolf-tooth eel. The chef controlled the heat very well, making its fish skin a little crispy, but the fish meat was still tender. While being able to taste the rich sauce flavor, it did not rob the sea eel of its own freshness. Liji was also tasting the taste of various foods carefully. He was using his tongue to record these taste memories in different categories. A good chef not only knows how to cook, but most importantly, he also knows how to taste. In particular, he can record the various flavors he has eaten, and can separate these complex flavors separately. Know what reaction will occur when the spices and sauces are combined. This is like an oil painter, who must know what kind of new color will be achieved by mixing each color with another color in what proportion. This is the basic professional quality of an excellent practitioner. After hearing Harry's question, Liji took a sip of soup and rinsed the food residue in his mouth before he began to speak. Keiseki, you have to separate this word to understand it. In the context of Chinese, wai means to embrace, and shi means stone. So from a literal point of view, it is a dish with stones in the arms. Liji raised one of his eyebrows, supported his chin with his thumb, and said with a smirk, "Huh? You mean the chef needs to hold a stone in his arms when cooking?" Peter Parker almost spit out the food in his mouth when he heard Liji's explanation. He quickly took a sip of soup to suppress it. Are they performing a Japanese comedy? Harry also wanted to laugh, as long as he thought of a chef holding a stone while cooking. Next time you should praise Jason for holding a stone and then making hamburgers. No, never. That's too stupid. Liji righteously rejected this suggestion. The real meaning of keiseki is to put warm stones on the abdomen to fight hunger. It was originally a means of practice for monks during their ascetic practice. Later, this concept was introduced because of the grand tea parties that became popular in the East in modern times. Traditional Oriental tea parties were activities for aristocrats and wealthy businessmen. It was not until the American Barry used powerful ships and cannons to knock on the door of the East and turned the country into a semi-colonial country. The country was divided into two factions and a melee began. After that, the anti-shogunate faction won, the entire country began to fully westernize, and the East entered a period of rapid development. In this era, ordinary people began to slowly become wealthy, so tea parties also began to become popular among the people. Li Ji quickly talked about the historical background of the East. But drinking tea on an empty stomach, especially strong tea, is harmful to health and can easily cause stomachache. So tea parties began to provide food. In the early days, the amount of food was not much, far from the many dishes we eat now. At that time, the function of food was just to fill the stomach. That's why there is the saying of kaiseki. It means to incubate the stomach with hot stones to make the stomach less hungry. But today, after continuous changes, the kaiseki cuisine we eat has become like this. Li Ji said and took another sip of soup. You mean the United States once colonized the East? It seems that our history textbooks don't mention it. As a top student, Peter Parker's attention has shifted from food. He is now surprised that he has not learned this historical knowledge about colonizing the East. Li Ji shrugged to show that there is nothing to be surprised about. If you want to find information on this, it is still easy to find. And the Japanese also erected a bronze statue for their conqueror to thank Admiral Bailey for knocking on the door of their country. And it seems that there are commemorative and performance activities about him every year, but I forgot where it was held. Li Ji spread his hands, indicating that he only knew so much. Well, isn't Barry an invader for doing this? Why would they build a statue for an invader and mourn him? Harry felt a little confused. How would I know why? Li Ji could only roll his eyes at Harry for this question. Strange country. Peter opened his mouth for a long time and didn't know what to say, and finally he could only hold back this sentence. The meal was spent in the three people's casual chat. The female general who had been helping to serve tea and clean up the dishes in a corner of the room suddenly said something in fluent English when lunch was about to end. Mr. Li knows a lot about the culture and history of the East. Huh? Li Ji didn't react for a moment, and after a pause, he realized that the woman was praising him with a smile on her lips. Sure enough, everyone around Mr. Harry is extraordinary. This female general not only speaks English very fluently, but also has a very confident tone when she speaks. She is not as weak as she looks. Because the momentum of this woman has changed, Li Ji suddenly has a flash of inspiration in his mind and remembers where he has seen her. It was in the information provided by the Innocence Society, and there was a photo inside. The woman in the photo was full of vigor, and her capable black suit was very eye-catching. One could tell at a glance that she was a strong woman who was not easy to mess with. And it was precisely because of the heroic spirit in the photo and the gentleness in the restaurant, these two completely different temperaments, that made Li Ji not recognize her in an instant. And the woman in the photo, according to the information, was the current head of the Yashida group, Yashida Mariko. Chapter 294, An Unusual Woman. The visit of Mariko Yashida was naturally arranged by Chairman Yasuda. This is not difficult to guess, regardless of whether Li Ji, Harry and others know about the discussion between Chairman Yasuda and his subordinates. Because the tour route in Kyoto was recommended by Chairman Yasuda, including the lunch at noon today, which was also arranged by him. If you say that there is no connection between Mariko and Chairman Yasuda, then Li Ji will never believe it. But what Li Ji did not expect was that Mariko actually met Harry in this way. This reminded Li Ji of the meeting he arranged for Harry and Tony. Let Harry pretend to be a waiter serving Tony Stark, so as to lower his posture and express a sincerity of mutual cooperation. Using this method as a prelude before mutual negotiations, it itself has a certain psychological prelude. It will make your negotiating opponent feel that you are sincere enough, especially when you are in a high position and in a relatively passive position. For example, Harry that time, he had just taken over not long ago, and the Osborn group was not very stable. And he was very young, and he had the experience of losing his father at an early age like Tony. So although the entire negotiation was done by Pepper, Tony was touched on his soft spot, so he gave the green light to the cooperation. When the person who used this method was a woman, especially a charming woman, its power would be even greater. Excuse me, I am Mariko Yashida. Please take care of me, Mr. Harry Osborn. Mariko bowed respectfully to Harry, doing it in the standard Japanese 75-degree posture. Oh, excuse me. I didn't know it was Miss Mariko. Harry was a little stunned, and he didn't remember who this Mariko was for a while. But Li Ji quickly whispered in his ear about the Yashida group, and he quickly remembered who this woman should be. I didn't expect it to be the head of the Yashida group. I'm sorry just now. Harry didn't expect that the method he used to deal with Tony was used on himself, which made him a little embarrassed. Li Ji and Peter also saluted. Regardless of whether they should stay away from the Yashida group, They still had to show courtesy on the surface under the premise that there was no conflict of interest between the two companies. Mr. Harry, you are overthinking. I believe that many Japanese girls would like to serve a young talent like you up close. Mariko's smile is very charming. Especially for a woman like her who has a bit of the beauty of a 20-year-old woman and the charm of a 30-year-old woman. This smile is full of charm. Sometimes women's attractiveness does not need to use the exposure of the body to show off sexiness. Women who are really proficient in this sometimes only need a smile in a look, and a seemingly inadvertent turn of the head to expose the neck, and a slight combing of the hair. These actions combined with some appropriate tone and phrases can naturally form a charming atmosphere. Of course, many times, this atmosphere does not mean that this woman wants to sleep with you. Sometimes she is just taking advantage of some of her own advantages. And Mariko is undoubtedly a master who is proficient in this. The words used by Mariko are very ambiguous, with a taste of pun. Harry was a little embarrassed. He turned his head and glanced at Peter, and found that the ears of this innocent little spider were a little red, and turned his face to the window. But when he looked at Lee Ji, he found that Lee Ji was still looking at Mariko with a calm face. Ms. Mariko, what is your purpose? If you want to discuss the issue of cooperation with the Yashida Group, I think our company's reply has been very clear. The Osborne Group has no intention of cooperating with your company for the time being. Lee Ji interrupted the ambiguous atmosphere that Mariko had just created in a very official but polite conversation. Although the interruption was very abrupt, it made Harry feel relieved. He really didn't know how to respond to Mariko's conversation just now. If the Osborne Group is really ready to cooperate with local Japanese companies to develop medical plans, then we will give priority to your company. Lee Ji's words were very formal diplomatic rhetoric. There was a lot of nonsense, but the meaning was only one, that is, there was no hope for cooperation. I'm sorry, Miss Mariko, this is a private trip. Mr. Harry's here to travel and doesn't want to be disturbed by official business. Lee Ji was ready to see him off. Lee Ji and Harry had discussed the Yashida Group before, and the background of this group involved in organized crime was too serious. Now Harry has just been in office for less than a year, and it is not good for him to deal with these monsters. Moreover, the Osborne Group is now focusing on the medical and biological field, which is different from the traditional weapons field. The limb regeneration plan is popular in countries all over the world, and there is no need to deal with various gray figures like the weapon supply chain. The Yashida Group wants to get a share of the pie in the East, but the scale of this group is too large, and it has a strong black background. If it is just a little bit of petty profit, I am afraid it will not satisfy the appetite of such a company. Whether it is Harry or Lee Ji, they don't want to share the company's profits with a group of gangsters. Lee Ji's rhetoric almost made Mariko angry. As the leader of the Kanto region of the East, she has not seen anyone who dares to talk to her like this in the East for 10 years. But as an outstanding businessman and leader of the group, she quickly calmed her resentment, and even the expression on her face did not change. Mr. Lee, I heard that you are Mr. Harry's personal consultant. I have heard of your name, and I heard that you can help Mr. Harry decide many things. Mariko still had a smile on her face, but her words were full of knives. Yes, Jason is my most trusted consultant. Everything he said was authorized by me. However, Harry has learned a lot of experience in the business world in the past year. He quickly said this for Lee Ji, and patted Lee Ji on the shoulder to show his trust in him. Mariko smiled respectfully on the surface, but no one knew what she was thinking. Lee Ji's soft and hard attitude and Harry's selfless trust in Lee Ji caught her off guard. I'm sorry, Miss Mariko, it's really rude today. But we want to continue our journey. I'm sorry, I think we should leave. Lee Ji said as he prepared to take Harry and Peter out of the store. He also exchanged a look with Harry. Chairman Yasuda's behavior is worth thinking about. Maybe we should go back to Osaka in the afternoon to discuss Chairman Yasuda's problem. Seeing that everyone was leaving, Yashida Mariko couldn't sit still. Since the routine didn't work, let's just do business as usual. Please wait a moment, Mr. Harry, I have something to discuss with you. Ms. Mariko, I'm really sorry. Our company has no intention of looking for strategic partners in Japan for the time being. Harry repeated what Lee Ji had just said, in a businesslike manner. No, you have misunderstood. But you will understand soon. Since the gentle policy did not work for these people, Mariko resumed her strong woman style. She was full of confidence when she spoke, and had the aura of a superior. Come out. At Mariko's shout, a somewhat thin boy hurried over from the eaves. The boy looked about 14 or 15 years old, and had a mixed appearance of white and yellow people. This was a bit similar to Li Ji. It was just that the boy's eyes looked a little timid, although he was a little stronger than his Asian peers. But that timid look made people look very uncomfortable. Li Ji, Harry and Peter were a little confused about what Mariko was going to do. Demonstrate to the guests. Mariko spoke to the boy with a condescending look. The boy looked very scared of Mariko. Although he was somewhat reluctant from his behavior, he still took out a sharp knife from his arms. The moment he took out the knife, Li Ji and Peter subconsciously thought that he was going to do something bad to Harry, so they both protected Harry. However, the boy did not take out the knife to commit murder. His face was a little nervous, and he kept looking at Mariko, with some pleading in his eyes. But Mariko's eyes were very determined. The boy finally gave up. He gritted his teeth and closed his eyes, and finally slashed his fingers fiercely. The knife was very, very sharp, and it could be seen that very good forging and grinding techniques were used. Because this knife was only 12 centimeters long, cutting off the 4 fingers of the boy's left hand was as sharp as cutting tofu. The 4 fingers were broken at the root, and the blood splashed from the broken parts was more than 3 meters away. It had already splashed from the eaves to the place where Li Ji and others had just dined. The green glazed porcelain stained with bright red blood was like peach blossoms blooming in spring, but the color was more vivid and gorgeous. "Are you crazy?" Li Ji shouted at Mariko in disbelief. Although he knew that Mariko had a background in gangs, he did not expect Mariko to order her subordinates to do this in this way. "What's the use of this?" Hearing Li Ji's words, Mariko ignored him. She just said one sentence. "I'm sorry that the scene is a bit bloody, but Mr. Harry will soon understand the purpose of all this." As Mariko said, Li Ji and others soon understood the purpose of Mariko's doing this. The boy's broken limbs were regenerating at a speed visible to the naked eye. First, the bones of the knuckles, then some muscles, blood vessels and nerves wrapped around the bones, and the epidermis was also restored. In less than 10 seconds, the boy's 4 broken fingers were intact. If it weren't for the broken limbs on the ground and the blood that just splashed, it would almost make people doubt that what just happened didn't happen. Li Ji and others exchanged glances with each other in shock. The shock was not because of the boy's recovery ability, but because the boy's recovery ability reminded Li Ji and others of another person. A person who fought with him and showed super recovery ability. And this person is currently wandering around Japan, and no one knows what he is doing. Li Ji secretly turned his head and used one hand to cover his side face so that Mariko could not see it. He used his mouth to gently make a sound. Wolverine Logan. Chapter 295, Difficult Cooperation. In the Marvel world, there are actually quite a few races or heroes that have the ability to recover. For example, the vampires that Li Ji and others had destroyed before, they have this very strong ability to recover. They can grow back broken limbs and so on. However, their recovery speed has its shortcomings. For example, the injuries caused by mithril cannot be recovered, and the entire repair process is also relatively long. For example, if you expect a broken arm to grow back completely, it will take a long time. It takes about a month to fully recover from the injury. Of course, some vampires with stronger strength recover faster and in a shorter period. For example, Harry, Peter and Li Ji. These 3 have the ability to speed up the healing of injuries, but it is not so obvious. If you have broken limbs and other injuries, you can't grow new limbs by yourself. Of course, there is also a lizard warrior who has a problem with the genetic medicine, but the side effects of that kind of recovery are too great. In addition to these, the person with the strongest recovery ability that Li Ji and others have seen should be Wolverine Logan. It seems that there are no side effects. Even if his limbs are torn off or his heart is blown up by a large caliber weapon, he can recover quickly. He is the indestructible cockroach in the Marvel Universe. The only person who can be compared with Logan's abnormal recovery ability is Deadpool Wade. But this guy is still in New York. According to Iron Fist before he took him away, this guy has been making trouble recently. No one knows why. And the super recovery ability of this child is amazing. There are not many people in the entire Marvel Universe who have super recovery ability like him. So Li Ji quickly thought of Wolverine. And according to his not-so-fuzzy memory, Li Ji probably knew that Wolverine seemed to have stayed in Japan for a while, which should be the plot in Wolverine 2. He seemed to have a relationship with an Oriental woman in the story, but Li Ji couldn't remember which woman it was. After all, when watching Wolverine back then, the story was all about Uncle Wolf fighting and killing. Who cared about the plot? Is this child Logan's child? Leiji had such a question. Because Logan is also in Japan now, Leiji did not hear the conversation between Frank and Logan. However, after knowing that Logan would stay in Japan for a while, Frank once mentioned their conversation to Leiji unintentionally. Could it be that Logan is looking for his old lover and child? Well, maybe Logan doesn't know that he has a child. However, such speculation is a bit arbitrary, and Leiji can't guarantee whether his guess is right or not. However, this does not prevent him from having wild thoughts in his mind. If he thinks more boldly, is the Mariko in front of him Logan's old lover? And this child is simply the son of Mariko and Logan? If you think about it this way, you will feel more and more how terrible this woman named Mariko is. As you can see, this is an unusual child. Mariko pointed at the boy and said, "The child who cut off his finger is still crying. Although he can regenerate his limbs, it does not mean that he can't feel pain. Even Logan, who is used to pain, will scream in pain when he is seriously injured, let alone a child. He has amazing recovery ability. And this recovery ability has almost no side effects." Mariko has completely changed her face and turned into a strong woman who specializes in business negotiations. The limb regeneration plan of the Osborn Group is a very successful commercial medical plan. Not only can it bring amazing benefits to your company, but it can also bring great fame. I believe that your name, Harry Osborn, will be recorded in human history in the future. Mariko did not hesitate to praise Harry. And Harry was a little embarrassed. Now the three of them were in a dilemma of leaving or staying. From a business perspective, doesn't Mr. Harry want to go further? You, like Tony Stark, are people who have the ability to change the direction of the world. And in some ways, you are greater than him, because Tony Stark's life must have been praised and criticized, and wherever you go, you must be full of flowers and applause. Mariko Yashida put high hats on Harry's head one by one. Because what you did is to save humanity, and now we have a better chance. A chance to change the future of humanity. And everything depends on this child. Mariko's speech was very inflammatory. Leiji and Harry exchanged glances without revealing their feelings. For some reason, Leiji felt a little uneasy. Your company developed a vampire purification serum, which resolved the alien crisis that has hung in human history for thousands of years. In the process, I believe you should understand why some people are so obsessed with vampires. Even many government officials, not only in the United States, but also in Japan, there are many similar vampire tribes. Mariko was talking about the fact that after the vampires were exposed, more and more details about vampires were revealed. For example, more and more vampire tribes were exposed, whether for justice or for political purposes. There are more and more news materials in this regard. Leiji whispered to Harry and Peter. Then Harry spoke. "Miss Mariko, you mean immortality?" "Yes, Mr. Harry. It is immortality. But the immortality of vampires is risky. We all know that it will make us neither human nor ghost." Mariko nodded and said. "And this child has the code to crack a human lifespan. Although I am not sure whether it can achieve immortality. But at least one thing is certain, the genes flowing in this child can change the world, as long as they are used. Because his genes can not only prolong life, but also fight against all diseases and viruses known to humans." Mariko's words sounded normal. But Leiji heard something different from her words. "Wait, Miss Mariko. You mean, you have done experiments on this child? To test his resistance to viruses?" Leiji asked in disbelief. But thinking of the way Mariko asked the child to cut off his fingers just now, Leiji felt that this woman might really do such a thing. While ensuring his safety, Mariko did not seem to quibble. "We did do some small experiments. We also have some data." Leiji looked at the trembling boy. He felt that the small experiment mentioned by Mariko might not be small at all. If his guess was true, and this child was really the son of this woman, then this woman was too cruel. Harry, Leiji and Peter were all a little speechless for a while. They may have seen a lot of villains, but they had never seen Mariko. "So, Mr. Harry, I think we have the premise for cooperation. Putting aside everything else, just discussing business purposes, I think we have broad prospects for cooperation." Mariko confidently extended her hand to Harry, expecting Harry to also extend his hand to shake hands with her to reach an agreement. Because in her opinion, any qualified businessman understands the potential behind this deal. But to her surprise, Harry Osborn's hand of friendship has not been extended. Because Harry was hesitating, and Lee Ji had a thoughtful look on his face, maybe some things were not as simple as Mariko expected. Chapter 296 Blood Transfusion Required. In the end, Mariko did not get the answer she expected. Harry's words disappointed her. Ms. Mariko, I need to think more about this matter. Harry said this to Mariko with a little apology. Then he left here with Lee Ji and Peter. Only Mariko was left, who seemed a little unhappy because the plan did not succeed. However, Mariko was not frustrated because there were few cases in business negotiations that could be successfully negotiated in one go. Opening and bargaining, proposing chips and thinking about value, these business games have always taken time to consider. When negotiating business with others, an excellent businessman must have his own rhythm. If someone introduces an unfamiliar rhythm, then it is very likely that he will be manipulated by others. Everything Mariko did here, in essence, was to introduce Harry into her own rhythm. Because for this young man who was less than 20 years old, it would be impossible for Mariko to have no contempt in her heart. Being young sometimes means impulsiveness, and young people are more eager to succeed. Just like Tony Stark back then, he became the boss of Stark Industries in his early 20s, and he has always been synonymous with high profile. And he never concealed his desire to succeed. It is hard not to compare Harry Osborn today with Tony Stark back then. Many people think that Harry Osborn will be a replica of Tony Stark. However, Harry's personality is so different from Tony Stark that he is destined not to become another Tony. But it is precisely because of his youth that Mariko chose to cooperate with Harry Osborn. If Norman is still the current person in power in the Osborn group, Mariko will never show this child. Because no matter how kind a father Norman appears to be in front of Harry, everyone who has cooperated with him in business understands that this is a terrible beast. He is a capitalist who really eats people without spitting out bones. And what Mariko wants is not just simple cooperation. Her grandfather, Ichiro Yashida, the madman who is afraid of aging and desires immortality, once wanted to seize Wolverine's self-healing factor. But the plan ultimately failed, and Ichiro Yashida died in the end. His granddaughter, Mariko Yashida, obtained a password to unlock the key to the self-healing factor in another way. Immortality is almost a dream that any elderly person in a high position prays for. They are used to the pleasure brought to them by power and status. They also hope that this pleasure can last for a long time. The most addictive thing in the world is not the various mentally dependent hallucinogens, but the pleasure of holding power. Just as Lee Ji and others left Sakura Cuisine, Mariko's men who had been waiting in the kitchen and other rooms of the cuisine also filed into this room. Take him back. Mariko pointed to the boy who had just broken his finger and said, without any warmth in her tone. Two strong men in black suits bowed respectfully to Mariko, and then took the timid boy away. Shinichi, go and inform Chairman Yasuda to go to Mr. Harry to lobby. Mariko instructed her personal secretary, a man with a more delicate appearance. Yes, miss. The secretary named Shinichi answered immediately. But after he finished speaking, he seemed a little hesitant to ask a question. What if the Osborn group doesn't want to cooperate with us? Mr. Harry doesn't seem to be very enthusiastic about this plan. Shinichi's words made Mariko frown. Yes, Harry was a little calm, unlike a young man who had just turned 18. He was not so concerned about proving himself. As long as the mentality is impatient, there will be flaws. And only with flaws will Mariko have the opportunity to use her means. Because Mariko didn't know that Lee Ji, who was by Harry's side, had always been an adult in mind. Especially after the training in the past year, various things made Lee Ji more aware of the sinister nature of human hearts. When Harry just started to intern in the company, Lee Ji had been advising Harry to keep a low profile. Out of trust in Lee Ji, Harry also kept a low profile. In this subtle way, Harry's personality has also changed to some extent, and he is no longer as impetuous as when he first joined the group. Mariko frowned. In the field of biological research, no company or country in the world can compare to the Osborn group. That's why I have to cooperate with them. Only they can tap into the potential and wealth of Dakin. The Dakin that Mariko was talking about was the boy who was taken away. But you're right, you need to look at both sides of everything. There will be failures if there are successes. I thought Harry Osborn was an excellent businessman, but it seems that he is not that outstanding. Please help me contact the United States. We need an alternative plan. So many years of planning cannot be wasted. After leaving the restaurant, Li Ji and others actually had no intention of visiting Kyoto. The three of them walked around the neighborhood with bad faces, and then returned to the hotel in Osaka early. The lights of Osaka Castle were just coming on. Standing in the presidential suite of the Osaka City Hotel, you can see the lights of the city through the large floor-to-ceiling windows. The night lights in Osaka are not as good as those in Manhattan and Times Square in New York, nor as good as those in Tokyo, the capital of the East. But there is another scene. As a seaport city, the cargo ships moored at the dock and the busy freight workers at the dock show the firepower of this old industrial city. Li Ji used the kitchenware in the suite to cook a few dishes. The three friends sat near the window and ate dinner while watching the night view. What do you think of what happened today? Peter Parker was the first to speak. We know about that child. That child must be related to Logan. We can't be sure of this. Harry said uncertainly. Maybe, maybe not. This amazing recovery ability is not an ordinary skill. It's not something you can find by walking to the boxing training hall and telling the coach to come to a trained boxer. Peter Parker said with a fork on a prawn. Dr. Hank said that the more powerful mutants are, the rarer they are. And such a powerful self-healing ability like Logan is even rarer. If there is no connection between the two, I won't believe it. Peter said with some confidence. Okay, Peter. We don't even know if he is a mutant. Harry said helplessly. It is very likely that he is Logan's child. I just don't know if Logan is aware that he has a child. Li Ji kept sorting out the plot of Logan 2 in his mind, and he felt more and more that this child was Wolverine's son, although the movie did not describe Wolverine having a child. But according to logical speculation, the accuracy of this guess should be very high. Do we need to help Logan rescue his child? That Mariko is simply a lunatic. She actually let a child self-harm. Peter said here with some indignation. Well, I think it may not be easy for us to intervene in this matter. Li Ji said with some embarrassment. Why? Peter and Harry asked curiously. Because don't you think that the child looks a bit like Mariko? Maybe Mariko is his mother. Li Ji thought this was entirely possible. Well, if you put it that way. It is indeed a bit similar. Harry recalled the appearance of the boy and Mariko, and felt that there were indeed quite a few similarities between the two. If the boy is Logan's son, but Mariko is Logan's wife? Li Ji shrugged, indicating that this problem was not easy to solve. So our best solution is to pass this message to Logan through some channels. As for how to solve this family matter, let Logan decide for himself. Harry and Peter looked at each other and both felt that this was the safest solution. But speaking of which, Harry, do you think there are some problems with the management of Donggang? Li Ji turned the topic back to the problems Harry was facing now. There are many problems, delays, shirking of responsibilities. All kinds of buck passing. Harry was a little discouraged when he said this. Maybe it's worse, Harry. Li Ji said to Harry very seriously. You lack prestige here. They seem to be respectful to you, but they despise you in their bones. Maybe it's time to make a big change here. Chapter 297, A Culture of Seeing the Big from the Small. In fact, I have been neglecting a very obscure and even very small problem. Harry, whether as a friend or as your personal consultant, this is an oversight. I must apologize to you here. Li Ji suddenly apologized to Harry without any context. This made Harry a little confused. What are you doing, man? Don't be so serious. Unless you want to tell me that you secretly dated Mary Jane when I wasn't paying attention. Li Ji's overly serious apology made Harry feel that the atmosphere was too tense, so he deliberately made a joke. Well, in fact, I did secretly date your girlfriend Mary Jane, but I didn't tell you. Last time we went to the amusement park near Flushing. Li Ji simply followed Harry's joke and said something. But she wanted to drink non-alcoholic cocktails, but I couldn't make them. So she dumped me on the day of the date and told me. As Mary Jane's boyfriend, I must be able to mix beautiful cocktails. Although I have never understood why non-alcoholic drinks can be called cocktails. Because this cocktail is specially made by Harry Osborn. Harry's eyebrows twitched as he spoke, looking a little cocky. Li Ji's joke eased the serious atmosphere just now. He also joked about Harry's hard work in learning cocktails in order to pursue Mary Jane. It was indeed a while ago, when Norman Osborn was still alive. Harry could only practice all this secretly in his office, and he couldn't be caught by Norman, otherwise he would be lectured. Although the length of time that passed was not very long, Li Ji always felt that these things had happened for a long time. Okay, Let's talk about the question just now. After the joke, Leiji still brought the topic back. I actually realized this at the lunch at noon today. What is it? Peter swallowed the prawn on the fork. Finally, he stopped waving the shrimp fork foolishly. It's a small, subtle problem. But it's a bit serious from some angles. Leiji pointed to the food on the table and said, "Are you satisfied with your dinner tonight?" He asked this question as if it was completely unrelated. But Peter and Harry still said it in a more cooperative way. "We always like your dishes. What about lunch?" Leiji was referring to the meal they had at the restaurant at noon. "Not bad, with a Japanese flavor, but without the parts I hate. It's a delicious meal." Harry replied by gently tapping his chin. "What about the working meal provided for you by the Japanese branch?" Harry's face was not very good when he said this. "Oh, it's terrible. I don't like eating raw fish and raw tofu. I don't like cold sushi either. Except for desserts, I find it difficult to accept food presented to me in a cold way. Yes, so I suddenly realized it at noon today. Why do they still present you with those dishes that you, Harry Osborn, don't like to eat?" Leiji said meaningfully. "Maybe they just don't know Harry's taste." Peter Parker spread his hands in vain. "After all, this is Japan, right? Not America. It's normal that we don't like what they eat." "Yes, it's normal. But there are many dishes you like, right?" Leiji was talking about the Keiseki cuisine at noon. Harry had a vague idea of what Leiji was going to say, but he didn't quite understand it. Peter was simply confused. He didn't understand what Leiji had to do with food and work. "Peter, what we are discussing here is not an expatriate intern. It's the leader of a business empire. Harry Osborn, the actual leader of a consortium with a net worth of thousands of dollars." Leiji stood up and walked behind Harry, and put his hands on his shoulders. To put it bluntly, as Harry's subordinates, they should be fully prepared for the first time this group leader comes to Japan. They should even find out what brand of toilet paper you like to use to wipe your butt, so that they can provide tissues with the right softness to serve your buttocks. Leiji's words were a bit vulgar. "Hey, we're still eating." Harry slapped Leiji's arm in annoyance. "Some negligence is human nature. They can't do everything perfectly," Peter said doubtfully. "Perhaps, if this situation is placed in a country with other cultures, it may be a minor negligence. But this is Japan." Leiji emphasized the word Japan. "The meticulousness and thoughtfulness of the Japanese are obvious to all in the world. And in the 3 East Asian countries, workplace culture and dining culture are inseparable. And I forgot this when I first came here. They didn't care what you like to eat when they entertained you. I believe the management here really used very high standards to entertain you, Harry," Leiji said to Harry. "But, rather than welcoming you, they are welcoming themselves. In East Asian culture, the expression of emotions is often delicate. And it is so sensitive that it is hard to touch. Many tiny details can reflect the characteristics of seeing the big picture from the small. Even if we put aside their concerns about your diet, let's just talk about Mariko's appearance today. A guy who sells his boss's schedule to outsiders, his attitude itself is worth considering." Leiji's conversation about the workplace culture of East Asian countries really made Harry think deeply. "And I don't know why you are so lacking in prestige here. They are respectful to you on the surface, but they don't agree with you in their hearts. And if this kind of lip service happens again and again, the management of the Toyo branch will be a big problem." Harry felt bitter after hearing Leiji's words. The headquarters in the United States has just been put on the right track, but Toyo, the Asian base, has problems again. The position of chairman of the Osborn Group is actually really not easy to do. And I think, Harry, you should establish some prestige and confidence here. After all, this is a country with completely different culture from the United States. Leiji suggested, and Harry nodded. "And I think you should let your secretarial team start working. There must be a big problem with the Oriental branch of the Osborn Group. We need an expanded meeting and a comprehensive review of the accounts of the entire group." Another boring, lengthy, and fruitless meeting. Harry felt a headache when he heard it. "At least, I'll accompany you this time." Leiji patted Harry's shoulder. "If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 298 Wolf and Spouse. People often say that the older people are, the more nostalgic they are. This is not because the past years were so beautiful, but because the self in memory is young. This sentence may not be suitable for Logan. For him, the years cannot leave many marks on him, even those deep scars cannot leave any traces of the past years on him. And the short and broken memories are like nightmares in the abyss, always haunting him. Whenever he wants to recall something, it always brings unforgettable pain to his brain. In the memories he still remembers now, most of those pasts are not so pleasant. For example, Donggyang is not a very pleasant place. Of course, this place once brought him pleasant memories. For a long time, he had an idea that he might as well end his life here. Maybe the lost memory is not so important, because he once had a love here. Or he thought he had a love. Of course, sometimes, people say that the beauty they have is based on an almost fictitious environment. Nagoya, the fourth largest city in Donggyang, together with Tokyo and Osaka, it constitutes the three most important commercial metropolitan areas in Donggyang. Nagoya is located between Osaka and Tokyo, and is the economic hub between Kansai and Kanto. On the outskirts of the Nagoya metropolitan area, Logan strolled along the country road. This is a village sandwiched between Nagoya and Kitaosu City. The village is not big, and there are not many residents. However, because it is located between prosperous cities, it is particularly rare. Compared with more than 10 years ago, this village has not changed much from what Logan remembered. Of course, this refers to the buildings in the village, those low two-story buildings. However, the only grocery store in the village has been replaced by the expanding 24-hour convenience store. It seems that the business of this convenience store is not very good. Because of the problems of low birth rate and aging, the population of this village has dropped sharply from more than 1,500 permanent residents in the past to more than 900 people. Most young people choose to find jobs in Nagoya City, not far from their hometown. If it weren't for the fact that this village is close to Nagoya and has geographical advantages, the profit from farming is still relatively objective. I'm afraid that all the young people in the village will run away. Like many Japanese villages, it was naturally abandoned. In such a sparsely populated village, the sudden appearance of foreigners is very conspicuous. Especially Logan's appearance is very eye-catching. Even on the streets of New York, it is the type that is easy to attract attention. So no matter where he goes, as long as there are people, they can't help but look at him. But Logan doesn't care about these. He just takes a look at some places where he used to live. Not far from the village office, there was a place where Logan used to live. A two-story building with a Japanese country-style courtyard. But now this house is abandoned. It looks like no one has lived there for a long time. Do you know where to rest nearby? In the convenience store, Logan bought a pack of cigarettes and a bottle of Chivas. He spoke to poor Japanese and English to ask the convenience store clerk. Maybe because Logan's Japanese was too bad, the clerk didn't understand what he was saying. Logan could only use his hands and feet to draw together to make the clerk roughly understand what Logan meant. The middle-aged lady in the uniform of Lawson convenience store spread out her hands and shook her head, indicating that there were no guest houses or hotels nearby. You must go to Nagoya. In order to prevent Logan from not hearing what she meant, the lady slowed down her speech. She told Logan word by word that if he wanted to find a hotel, it would be best to take the bus that passed through the village every day to Nagoya. Logan had just come from Nagoya, so how could he just go back the same way? Without following the kind advice of the clerk, Logan climbed over the wall and entered the abandoned old house at night. Although the house was very dilapidated, the furniture inside seemed to have not been moved much. The faucet had been completely rusted and could only spit out some turbid yellow water with rust. The power supply of the house had been cut off long ago. The wooden floor was not well maintained, so it was deep and shallow when walking on it. When Logan walked through the living room and wanted to go to the bedroom in his memory, his heavy footsteps raised a lot of dust. Fine dust was scattered in the air and entered Logan's lungs through breathing, causing him to cough violently. Cough, cough, cough. Logan unscrewed the cap of Chivas and poured 2 mouthfuls of food and wine into his throat to calm the cough. Okay, let's just stay here for one night. Logan didn't care much about the mess here. He checked a few chairs, found a relatively sturdy one, and patted the dust. But it seemed that the more he patted the dust, the worse it got, so he simply stopped patting. He just sat on it. Because there is no light pollution from the city, the night sky in the countryside is much more beautiful than that seen in the city. because you can see many second and third magnitude stars. Although it is now difficult to see the Milky Way in summer due to human damage to the air. But every time when people look up at the starry sky, they can't help but sigh at their own insignificance and the vastness of the starry sky. Logan lit a cigarette for himself and took a sip of Chivas, sitting quietly in the chair, looking up at the starry sky through the window. In human literature and artistic renderings, wolves are always described as lonely and proud creatures. They seem to always be alone, like a lonely ranger. But in fact, wolves are social creatures. Like most social creatures, wolves also need a social structure and status of their own. This also includes spouses and families. Logan is a lonely Wolverine. In his limited memory, killing occupies most places. If there's any place worth remembering, perhaps this is one. But sometimes, memories will be interrupted by uninvited guests. Logan, who has a super sense of smell and hearing, is highly alert to the subtle sounds in the dark and the strange smells that suddenly appear in the air. He has thrown away the bottle of Chivas, and the amber wine has spilled all over the floor. 3 steel claws made of adamantium have popped out. As Logan guessed, this small building has been surrounded by men in uniform black suits. Late at night, someone in the village curiously turned on the light to observe the situation here, but after just one look, they quickly turned off the light. Because no one wanted to cause trouble for themselves. Logan didn't think these people were looking for him to reminisce about the past. He was ready to fight. His alertness was in line with the personality of a wolf. But soon there was a flaw in this alertness. Because he smelled a familiar smell in the air. The owner of that smell had accompanied him for several years, which was the best time of his life. Logan, you are still the same, you haven't changed at all. Nothing can leave a mark on you, not even the most ruthless time. The woman who pushed aside the black-clothed crowd and walked towards Logan was the one he loved and also the one he hurt, the woman named Mariko Yashida. Chapter 299 Yasuda and Lee Ji. Location, Osborne East Asia Branch Building, Osborne. Chairman Yasuda's life has not been easy in recent months. As the actual leader of the East Asia branch of the Osborne Group, this man, who is nearly 60 years old, has begun to feel a little tired. Although he has vitality that is completely disproportionate to his age, vitality is the weapon that guarantees his business and workplace struggles. This rapidly changing world makes people too overwhelmed. There is a law in electronic products that is regarded as a golden rule by many people. That is Moore's law, which means that when the price remains unchanged, the number of components that can be accommodated on an integrated circuit will double approximately every 18 to 24 months, and the performance will also double. This formula reveals the explosive development of modern society. Whenever technology accumulates to a certain level, it only takes one explosion point to drive a huge change in the entire social class. And this change is enough to change the entire human life structure and the way society operates. In the late 1970s, when Eiji Yasuda, Chairman Yasuda, just started working, business documents do not need to be delivered on the same day or the next day. In that era, a cross-border business negotiation was a tough tug-of-war. The submission and modification of various documents, especially those that cannot be faxed and must be signed by the original hand, consumed a lot of time. The emergence of FedEx raised people's standards for express delivery. Because this company pioneered the super-fast business document delivery standard that arrived the next day. And when the internet age came, if an email did not receive an effective reply for more than 30 minutes, people would doubt whether they had sent it to the wrong mailbox. In a simple sentence, the human world is getting faster and faster for this. I will not go into too much detail about the 2 examples here, but it is not difficult for those who are interested to find that because of the emergence of some things, whether they are intentional or unintentional, they are all changing the world, changing the rules of the world and the social and living habits of human beings. And this technological explosion point that is enough to change the world pattern is also called the turning point of human society. There are many turning points in human history, because the existence of these turning points has introduced the human world into new bifurcated fields and shaped modern society. Whether it is papermaking, gunpowder, the discovery of atoms, or other discoveries. As mentioned in the 2 examples above, FedEx reduced the delivery speed from 3 to 5 days to 1 day. The emergence of the internet has compressed this time to seconds. Sending an email from the United States to China, after countless transfer ports and long submarine optical fiber transmission, finally reaching the recipient, takes at most tens of seconds, and this is when your network latency is very, very high. In summary, While the technology in the human world is developing explosively, humans have also begun to infinitely magnify speed. This is true for any job. Eiji Yasuda began to feel that he could not keep up with the pace of this era. Especially now that he is in the company, Osborn Group. This company itself has begun to push the turning point of the human world. The work here is no longer the way it was more than a decade ago. Yasuda is indeed a little old. But he is unwilling to give up his rights. The Toyo Osborn branch not only controls the business of the Osborn Group in Toyo, but also actually controls the group business in the entire Asian region. It is not an exaggeration to say that Chairman Yasuda is second to none. As the leader of the Toyo branch, he is bound to be welcomed and warmly received wherever he goes. He has a place in any occasion. Even the Prime Minister of Japan needs to seek his advice when designating economic policies. Because as one of the largest capitalists in the country, some of Yasuda Eiji's decisions are enough to cause shocks in the Japanese economy. It is precisely because he is given such powerful power that Yasuda Eiji is so intoxicated with his current position. He has a strong desire to stay in this position. That's why he took the risk to arrange a meeting between Mariko and Harry, because in his opinion, Mariko's request is almost irresistible. Think about it, a gene that can quickly heal any wound and fight against various diseases. As long as the Osborn Group masters this technology, the whole world will be crazy about Harry. But the news from Mariko is not very good. It seems that her persuasion has failed. Standing in front of the mirror, Chairman Yasuda tidied his graying hair. Maybe he should dye it black, he thought. Now he needs to tidy up his appearance and then go to meet Harry Osborn. He needs to talk about his strength and let the young Harry understand how precious this opportunity provided by Mariko is. Excuse me, Chairman. Mr. Harry wants to ask you to come over. Just as Chairman Yasuda was getting dressed in his office and preparing to look for Harry, his personal secretary informed him of the news. He narrowed his eyes slightly and nodded. Got it. In Harry's office, Harry fiddled with the Newton pendulum on the desk. Peter followed several technical officers to the research room of the East Asia branch. Only Li Ji accompanied Harry in the office. It seems that the East Asia branch has been very busy recently, Li Ji said while holding a tablet computer and swiping the screen with his hand. What have you found? My secretarial team has just started to check the accounts of the East Asia branch, and there is nothing to find yet. Harry fiddled with the Newton pendulum and said to Li Ji. Well, sometimes the information obtained from legitimate relationships is less. And at this time we need some special channels. Li Ji raised the tablet computer in his hand. Regarding the news that there is a child who looks very much like Wolverine, Li Ji has passed it to the Innocence Society through a channel, asking them to find Logan, who is still here in East Asia, and inform him of the news. On the other hand, through Matt Murdock, Daredevil, the Innocence Society was asked to find some clues about the Oriental branch of the Osborn Group. Some of the information Matt obtained was transmitted to the tablet in Li Ji's hand through Zheng Chu, who was far away in the United States, in a special encrypted way. Well, a lot. There may be problems in the weapons department and the biological research department. It seems that they took advantage of the opportunity of Mr. Norman's death and your new position to do a lot of things. Li Ji had not finished reading the documents in his hand, so he did not give Harry a complete answer. But just this kind of news was enough for Harry to frown. Chairman Yasuda is here. While the two were talking, Eiji Yasuda had already arrived in Harry's office. Mr. Harry, what do you want? This man is always respectful in front of others, and people can't find any fault with his etiquette. But it's hard to say what he does behind his back. Harry glanced at Li Ji and motioned for him to speak first. Li Ji understood what Harry meant, so he put down the tablet and said, Hello, Chairman Yasuda. I am Jason Lee, Mr. Harry's personal consultant. Li Ji stepped forward and shook hands with Chairman Yasuda. During our last trip to Kyoto, the meeting with Miss Mariko Yasuda did not seem to be in our plan. Chairman Yasuda looked at Li Ji and said in a tone that was not arrogant, but very official. It was a very meaningful meeting. Because Mr. Harry had previously turned down all the invitations from the Yasuda Foundation, he was forced to use this last resort. I apologize to Mr. Harry here. I am a bit overstepping, Mr. Yasuda. Li Ji did not give Eiji Yasuda much face. Mr. Harry should decide who he wants to meet, not his subordinates. Harry sat behind the big desk, watching the confrontation between the two with an expressionless face, but smiled slightly in his heart. That's why I said it was a bad and impolite move. Chairman Yasuda bowed to Harry. and I did this completely out of public interest. Ms. Mariko has enough bargaining chips to make the Osborne Group treat her as a guest of honor. I don't understand why we should refuse to accept her. Cooperation with the Yashida Group has all the benefits and no harm. The Yashida Group is involved in the underworld background of the East. Leiji emphasized this point, which was not mentioned in the Yashida Group report submitted by Yasuda to Harry. The country of the East has its own special nature. In this country, big businessmen, especially local businessmen, cannot avoid the problem of the underworld if they do not have a certain relevant background. Chairman Yasuda said tit for tat. And this kind of problem was also very clear to Mr. Norman in the past. So you want to remind us in this way? Leiji laughed a little. This is not any malicious intention. I don't understand why you, Mr. Lee, as Mr. Harry's senior personal advisor, repeatedly interfere in the actual operation of the company and excessively interfere with Mr. Harry. Chairman Yasuda said this paragraph very heartbreakingly. You are just a private consultant, and you haven't even graduated from high school yet. I have experienced more financial crises in business than you have read in books. Why do you keep blocking the correct decisions of experienced businessmen? Chapter 300, Serpent. Chairman Yasuda used a tone that was almost like a low roar in his last sentence. What kind of person is Leiji? A little brat under the age of 20. Just because he has a good relationship with Harry, he has become a celebrity around him. What does this kind of person know about business planning? What does he know about the future development of the company? How can this kind of brat understand my hard work and dedication for the company? In Chairman Yasuda's mind, he seems to have become a selfless person. Everything he does is out of public interest, not out of an obsession with power at all. His current doubts about Leiji all come from his loyalty to the company. Leiji wanted to laugh when he heard Chairman Yasuda's low roar. He turned around and glanced at Harry. Harry gave Leiji a look, indicating that he should solve it himself. Anyway, in the previous discussion between the two, Chairman Yasuda's position was destined to move. But this move can be good or bad. Whether to retire gloriously as a company veteran or to be ordered to stop and suit in court, these are two completely different results. Perhaps Chairman Yasuda really didn't take Harry seriously in his heart because of his young age. In Japan, seniority may be very important. But in this rapidly changing world, youth is no longer an obstacle, and sometimes it is even an advantage. Chairman Yasuda, does the correct decision you mentioned also include exporting weapons produced by the Osborne Group to non-governmental organizations? Although Leiji was smiling, his eyes were very serious. Hearing Leiji's words, Chairman Yasuda felt like he was struck by lightning. But on the surface, he remained calm because he was not sure whether Leiji was deceiving him. I have never done anything that violates company regulations. Chairman Yasuda said calmly. Really? Leiji's words were somewhat joking. Chairman Yasuda, you should understand. The Osborne Group is a very large group. The weapons manufacturing department is just a branch department within our group. Although weapons exports do make money, our current policy is medical biology. When Mr. Harry came to power, he had already determined the direction of the group's development. Weapons can only be sold through official channels to national organizations with legal regimes. Any requests from private individuals and illegal organizations to purchase weapons are strictly rejected. I think you should know that Tony Stark almost died under the missiles he made. Leiji walked around Yasuda Eiji twice and said seriously. We can't damage the image of the entire company for a small profit. So any weapons of the Osborne Group that fall into non-governmental organizations will be a serious violation. Leiji approached Yasuda Eiji and said. The old man remained calm and stared at Leiji with a serious expression. What do you mean by that? Do you want to throw dirty water on me? Accuse me of selling weapons to illegal organizations? Then where is the evidence? Yasuda Eiji said righteously. Leiji glanced at the tablet computer he had just put down. It might not be appropriate to reveal these data now. Maybe he should startle the snakes and drive all the hidden snakes out and gather them together so that Harry can catch them all in one fell swoop. No, I don't want to doubt Chairman Yasuda. Leiji smiled again. I just want to remind Mr. Chairman here. Remind what? Yasuda Eiji looked at Leiji with a bad face. We need to conduct a thorough account check of the entire Toyo branch and inventory all the products in the warehouse. Leiji said slowly. The financial department team and related personnel from the U.S. headquarters will arrive in Osaka later tonight, and they will start working immediately. I hope colleagues from the Toyo branch will cooperate with the work. Yasuda Ag unconsciously clenched his fist, but soon released it. No problem, I understand. Chairman Yasuda couldn't tell what he felt when he left Harry's office. He was just repeatedly calculating whether he had made any mistakes. How much do you think my accounting and finance team can find out if the East is as troublesome as you said? As soon as Yasuda Ag left the office, Harry relaxed and leaned back in the boss chair. I don't know, I think it will be limited. If he wants to do this kind of thing, he must have dealt with it thoroughly. The weapons produced by the Osborn Group on the black market are at least 30% higher than our official channels. Leiji walked to the refrigerator in the office, took out an apple and took a bite. This is an attractive profit, as long as Yasuda Ag or his subordinates can handle a seemingly feasible purchase contract. A normal government department will purchase the weapons, and then resell them to illegal organizations. I don't want the weapons I make to fall into the hands of terrorists or similar people. Harry frowned. Yet, I don't want the criminals I meet one day to fight me wearing weapons and armor made by the Osborn Group. So we probably need some wild ways. Leiji quickly bit the apple and looked at Harry. While Leiji and Harry were talking about the Osborn Group, in the nearby city of Nagoya, Wolverine Logan was reminiscing with his old lover Mariko. You are really amazing now, Yasuda Mariko. You have become the leader of the Yasuda Group. In a high-end hotel in Nagoya, Logan was lying naked on a large double bed. And Mariko was lying in Logan's arms in the same posture. Now Mariko looked more beautiful and charming than usual. Thanks to your help, Logan, you helped me get rid of my father and grandfather. Mariko didn't care about the sarcasm in Logan's tone at all. She drew circles on Logan's chest with her index finger and said lazily, "So I am a tool." Logan's tone was very lonely. Everyone is a tool. It's lucky to be a tool. At least it proves that you still have value. Mariko did not shy away from the term tool. Instead, she had her own theory. My father, a man with a head full of futile stubborn ideas, mistakenly believed that the world was still in the Eastern Warring States period 500 years ago. The Bushido spirit he believed in simply disgusted me. Mariko's voice was soft, but her words were very vicious. And my grandfather, the one who wanted to live forever. He also planned to steal your genes to fulfill his dream of immortality. He was simply an absurd madman, and he even had improper thoughts about me as his granddaughter. Logan glanced at Mariko lying in his arms. She was still as beautiful as she was more than a decade ago. She was even more charming now because of the years. So you were going to use me when you saw me. Logan's words were without any emotion. When I knew you existed, Logan, I knew that you were the only one who could save me. Mariko said bluntly. So you pretended to fall in love with me? No. At least I did fall in love with you for a period of time. But I love myself more than I love others. I know you are a hero, and you will risk your life to save your woman. You are very manly in this respect. Just like the alpha wolf who guards his mating rights, you will protect your mate tightly behind you. Mariko said, biting Logan's throat gently with her teeth. But I know that a wolf will not have only one mate in his life. You can't stay with me forever, because you won't die or age. But I will. So I need to find something that can protect me, that is power. Only by holding power can I guarantee that I still have the right to eat and survive in this cruel modern forest. Mariko's words were so straightforward that it was hard to accept. So I used you to clear all the obstacles in front of me. With your help, I can ascend to the throne of the Yasuda Group. I owe you this. The two naked men and women hugged each other, but what they said was not lingering love words, but emotionless conflicts of interest. This made Logan feel more and more lonely, and this loneliness and solitude seemed to have accompanied him for hundreds of years. He could not feel the warmth of the woman in his arms, as if it was just a dead body. Logan let go of Mariko, and went to the bed without saying a word to put on his clothes. Are you leaving? Mariko said thoughtfully. Yes, Logan said while adjusting his shirt. Where to? Mariko stood up from the bed, walked behind Logan, and gently leaned on his strong back muscles. Leave Japan. Logan felt the warmth coming from behind him, and his hands that were wearing clothes paused for a while. How long will you be away? Mariko's tone of voice was like a dream. Forever. When Logan walked out of the hotel door without looking back, Mariko's face showed a smile. Yes, you will never step into Japan again in the end, Logan, forever and ever. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.